But I don't think it's that. Now, if you're Kevin Stefanski, you could maybe be looking at, your GM and your owner like, bro, I'm an offensive coach. So can I get some more toys to play with, please? I kind of like some toys. I would like toys, right? And if maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, give Kev a toy. Let's see what happens. Maybe. I don't know, man. Miles was all smiles. I know the 140, right? I know. And if iHeartRadio walked right down here now and gave me a guaranteed contract, and it wouldn't be near $140 million, but if they gave me my version of what that would be, I would smile right now. For sure. But if they also told me this, bro, not only are we going to give you your money, we're also going to show you the respect you deserve as an air talent too, and we're going to hire this person and that person. Your job's getting easier, and you get the 140. Yeah, man, I'm pretty sure I'm smiling ear to ear that day.
The Stansberry Show.
Nerd stuff probably excites you because you're nervous.
On Rock 106.9.
Everyone said earning an MBA would complicate my busy life, but with WGU, I use my real-world experience to move through course material faster. Learn more and get started at wgu.edu.
According to Saltus Wealth, 41% of high-net-worth individuals report having been victims of financial crime. Are you next? High-profile individuals like you need more than off-the-shelf solutions. You need concierge digital security from Reputation Defender. It's not just another app. It's a team of experts using best-in-class tools to protect you and your family, covering virtually every aspect of your digital life. Visit reputationdefender.com/success to learn more. That's reputationdefender.com/success.
Because again, as I just mentioned, happens a little too often, that the reaction of that audience might not be what it would have. Okay. Mostly young people kind of have an anti-cop mentality. Cops, always just trying to kill our time. But it's mostly about buzzkill, not necessarily fear, right? That's the kind of the way it was for me and my friends growing up. Well, privilege, I guess, I suppose. But it was mostly about buzz-killing type stuff, right? But if a guy in a band, if his wife had, pointed a weapon at a cop, I don't think... God, I guess I don't know. Maybe... Are we clapping for that? And I don't let me admonish the Coachella crowd. We have not seen this happen or unfold that way. I just started thinking about, I was walking back into the studio. I was like, wow, man, the one thing I haven't thought about is these guys are supposed to play a pretty big music festival Saturday night. Oof. Is the world upside down to the fact that we're just like, did they get... What's the responsibility of Weezer there? If you go out and it's raucous, hey, thank God. Hey, guys, can we... dude, we're here to play Africa, so can we not? Good Lord. Good Lord. I gotta be honest with you. I'm in the...
Drive north on Interstate 77 north for 2 miles.
Did you hear about this crazy business? That's the business I'm in. Did you hear about this? This is nuts. That's what I do. And this one, when I saw it yesterday, I was like, you tell me a musician's wife walked out of the house with a gun? It's like, well, bro, heroin and drugs and I don't know. Living with the loser musician for 30 years, and God only knows what came with that, and herpes and the thing. Dude, she had enough, baby. We gotta hear her out, right? This is, but Weezer? I guess that's what they say, man. Don't judge a book by its cover. Did you think Weezer were the firearms in the house, guys? The wife on top of it. Now, have the firearm in there. We both live here. We should both be... Maybe it's just they're realistic people, Dan. They live in Los Angeles. That's what I would think. And normally when I say things like that, people are like, oh, see, I knew it. The dog wasn't there. The guy. Just put the We the People sticker on the Honda. We can see you underneath there. You know what I mean? You get that kind of stuff, and I'm like, dude, I like the gun in the end table. People normally start to, pull out that, is he whistling? Is he whistling? You know what I mean? Why doesn't Weezer get that? Never mind. I just wasn't prepared for that. Tommy Lee, well, even now, him now, that would be crazy. But like back in the 80s, any one of those morons waving a hand cannon around in their driveway. It's like, well, dude, have you seen Vince Neil? Yes. Weezer wasn't that. They're not supposed to, these guys, they're not, what's happening? This isn't the nerds. You're not supposed to be doing this. Dude, you came in to usher out this version of the rock star. That's what, it just was weird. I mean, yeah, you just never know what people are going through, I suppose, right? And judging books and covers and reading and get all the chapters going, I guess. But I don't know this got sent to me yesterday, I swear to God, by somebody who works for a news station in Cleveland. Now I know everybody, fake news, they didn't know me. But like literally, dude, somebody who like sources material for them. And like where you kind of on a little bit of a text chain back and forth, and we have been for a while, and then say, hey, you see this, you see this. My point is to tell you is that there are people who can send me headlines like this, and I won't even look at it because I know I'm like, nah, dude, ABC.go, east, west now, it's now 6.west now. Dude, come on. But like when somebody who's like, has sent you things more than enough times, that's on the up, like Weezer, dude, a woman married to a dude in Weezer? I'm just shocked by that. I'm shocked by that. And that's not what I would have expected. That's a little bit of a sucker punch. Haymaker, if you will.
God damn it.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. What did people say? Bingo card. Like I didn't have that on the. That would not have been on the 2025 bingo card. I'm sure it has. You know what? Let me maybe look. Isn't this my responsibility? We look this up for me, producer. Did Weezer put out like a "Hey, we're not playing Coachella" statement? Recently read this statement about Brian. No. Yeah, I mean, mostly when you Google it, it's just, here's what happened. I haven't necessarily, maybe I'll check their socials. You know what? That's probably the first place to go. Not necessarily that lamestream media, man. Probably should have just went to their socials. But I cannot imagine that Rivers and crew were like, yeah, Saturday, Coachella, we're doing it. Or. Tell you what makes that a little crazy for me to have said that. I mean, I told you about 6-7 times I'm Gen Xy, right? And for sure I am. You know what Gen Xy would have said? That show, baby, goes on.
The Stansberry Show.
I just thought you were a dumb freeloader who ate all my food and played video games all day.
On Rock 106.9.
Welcome back to the Stansberry Show. I'm on your socials, the Stansberry Show. You guys want Easter baskets, man. Those messages keep coming in. Why are you trying to cut me off from my Easter basket? I'm not trying. I just said 67% of adults say that they would like one. I actually said, I'm not trying to cut you off from it. I said, I think people, you should do it for one another. Not just the kids. You're living together and taking on the all of hate known as planet Earth together. Yeah, there's a Cadbury egg for you, too. Probably not the worst idea in the world. I'm not trying. I was saying my brother was bummed out when we started to hit, I don't know, preteen, maybe teenage. My mom was like, no more Easter baskets. My brother wasn't having it. He stomped through the house. David didn't like that, And here's the thing, like I've told you before, David and I are 7 years apart, so I was still getting them. You think I saw any of that stuff that was in those Easter baskets when he didn't get it? I did not. Not one thing. Not one thing. I read a stat the other day that's our story the other day that said, without a shadow of a doubt, now they can prove. I don't have it pulled up, but they said without a shadow of a doubt they can prove that a parent that has more than one kid, that they can prove you have a favorite. And I said, well, mine was easy. David was 7 years older than I was, and 1 year for Christmas, they got us boxing gloves. Do you have it? I mean, like, literally, I was like, okay, so, like, we just hate me, right? Like, is that what happened? Like, I don't know. And so I think maybe that's why I'm dumb. Because my parents were like, all right, hey, put these pillows on your fist and beat your little brother in the face all summer while we go to work. So I'm sure that had something to do with it, you know what I mean? I think, going full UFC at 7 years old with my brother, that might have had something to, do with my inability to keep thoughts at the front of my mind. I don't know. Anyway, here we go. So we talked about that a little bit. We also talked about Weezer. Because, good God, man, that wife, Jillian Schreiner, apparently, she's married to the bass player in Weezer. Scott's his name. you don't care about that anymore. But like, she came out of the house after there was a hit and run. She had nothing to do with it. And, but it was happened near her. Suspect's running around out there. She sees him. She sees cops. She thinks to herself, well, there's a 9mm in the house. Let me grab this and walk outside. Not real bright. You know, I was shocked when I read in there, maybe, you know, lamestream media, maybe they don't have the facts straight yet. We'll see what we get tomorrow. I'm sure there's going to be 6-7 updates. You know, we'll talk about those. Let me see here. But I was shocked that when she went out there, she decided to point the gun at the people wearing the police uniforms. You know what I mean? Not the person who was maybe running around erratically. That was surprising to me. I'm not sure that would have been my method. But again, I was not there in Eagle Rock, that part of, I guess, eastern Los Angeles. I was not there for this the other day. Jillian was now charged with murder. Attempted murder, sorry, of a police. I don't want to be fake news, but and I do mean that seriously. Now I believe now charged with attempted murder of a police officer. Now I think we know, you know, the wheels of justice and slow, and we'll get lawyers involved. My best guess is that you will see a reduction of those charges. I don't think they're going to get reduced so far down that it's like, hey, look at that, she's just walking around now. I'm not so sure of that. Now we could talk about the celebrity angle a little bit. I'm not sure that he and even Weezer is big enough to sidestep something like that today. And isn't that probably how that should be? Probably, right? But I do think, I think most people, without firing the weapon, I think a lawyer is going to be able to argue and be like, nah, we kind of need to meet here. I know, you went heavy-handed. That's your opening salvo. Where are we looking to meet here, Mr. DA? Right? Like, that's kind of one of those. It feels like that to me. Now, I based all of that on Law and Order, so, you know, what the hell do I know? So we did talk about her a couple of good times, though. Russell Brand, too. Also, what was going on with the Canton Library. And, yeah, some more Easter basket stuff. If you missed any of it, grab the podcast. What I'll do is compile that shortly and then post that at WRQK.com. Aside from that, done for the day, not back live again until tomorrow. We'll urge you now to stay safe out there, be good to one another, and do, in fact, meet me here tomorrow. That at 6 a.m. for Friday show on Rock 106.9. Hopefully you have a great afternoon, and hopefully you and I run into one another somewhere around this great city of ours.
The Stansberry Show.
I just want to say I listen to your show all the time, and I really, really hate you.
On Rock 106.9.
Welcome back to the Stansberry Show, where I was apparently a little bit wrong about the Easter basket. A lot of you guys are like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. My parents still give me one of those. I'm 30. Interesting. You know, a little gift, a little appreciation, a little, hey, I've been thinking about it. Like, I mean, come on. It's nice. It's probably good. You know, have you met the person who feels like they're a person who feels... Lauren Schreiner is a name you probably do not know. She is married to a man. I believe his name is Scott Schreiner. It is. That is a name you do not know. Weezer, however, is a name you know. Scott Schreiner plays bass in the band Weezer, which we did not have this part of this conversation the first time you and I had discussed this, but they kind of, now hipster was always a thing, but like they kind of brought back the resurgence of the hipster thing, right? I mean, I was kind of there for that when that song kind of came out, MTV, and again, to me, they're the Cars, and it's because Rick Ocasek produced the first record. And like that's, but like, and so I kind of saw a rebirth of this thing that I used to love. But then the brown pants and the red sweater and it was like, oh, we're dollar store shopping, right? Like, and not dollars, thrift store, you know, that whole thing. But yet, buddies of mine who were like, that don't rock. We're like, yeah, those dudes are all right though, right? And it's because it kind of had that Cars feel. But they kind of brought back that thing. Anyway, here's what happened. His wife apparently was involved in a shootout with the LAPD. I guess they live near Eagle Rock. This is a little east of Los Angeles. there had been a previous, there was a hit and run situation that had been going on. And the LAPD is looking for the suspect. They find themselves, in a residential area. Not all that unlikely, right? And so one of the suspects gets out of a vehicle, and I believe has a weapon. The LAPD is there. This woman comes out of her home. Now, a 9mm weapon was recovered from the scene later, but the reports are she comes out of their home holding a weapon, points it at police. I will stop here and urge you all to, unless you would like to be fired upon, do not take a weapon and point it at a police officer or anyone. We could probably just start there. Maybe end there. Yeah, about nobody there. Yeah, fair enough. But the standard on this program has been, since I believe it was June 4th, 2014, that if you should take out a weapon and point it at a police officer, I will be less than surprised if you were fired upon. Earlier, while we were talking about this, I was like, I get real confused here when people are like, they shot her. I'm like, well, right, but that's what you tell me they're going to do no matter what happens. If I read the news, if I read social media, if they show up at the dog parks, that's it, everybody gets a bullet. And yet, when they show up, I notice, even though they're known to be the most trigger-happy, murderous sons of bitches alive, somehow, some way, everybody's always like, yeah, point this thing at him, let me see if I'm the one that... Now, maybe what you could do, if you were looking to argue it that way, and I mean disingenuously, is that, well, because they're so murderous, and because, all that. But she had nothing to do with this situation. Now, I'm not sure she knew what the situation was. There's a man running around outside. Is the smart thing to do to run around outside with a weapon if you see somebody in this situation like that? No. No. I don't think most... Okay. Of the more liberal women listening right now, most of the guys that listen to me who have the truck that you think makes them a little too close to that line, has the beard that maybe has them a little too close to that line, has the job maybe that has them a little too close to that line, who does have them guns in them safes and in them end tables and all that stuff, those guys, most of them don't believe the smart thing for her to do yesterday, man or woman, is to walk outside with the weapon and interject yourself into that situation. You know that, right? Those big, dumb, rednecky, racist types that you think, which, by the way, you meet any 6 of those guys, you're going to find out that's not who they are. But those dudes that you think you don't like, that you think are the just go, Yosemite Sam, remove! Like, they're going to tell that dumb lady, stay your ass in the house, the cops were there. That's what they're all going to tell you. Right? Most common sense people just went, yeah, why is he walking people's hands? Like, why are you holding your hands for this? This is common sense. You don't go out there and interject yourself into the situation. What the hell was this woman thinking? The fact that she was only struck in the shoulder, by the way, she's not dead. She's charged with, is it attempted murder, I believe, because she pointed the weapon. Now, welcome to what charges are and what we will end up with down the road. And that would happen, my guess is, if you don't fire the gun, my guess is that would happen whether or not you were, because we can talk about Weezer having power, but again, you don't know Scott Schneider's name. And even if he wrote a bunch of the catalog, they're on what, like the 10th record? All right, Scotty, buddy, we'll see you around. You know what I mean? Thanks, thanks for Sweater Song, dog. You know what I mean? But like, they're gonna wait. That's deuces. See you later. That's not shit. They don't have fame like that. Now, I guess she is involved in the Hollywood scene a little bit, but I mean, come on. Like, that's not, they don't have the name to be pulling that. They're like, not attempted murder on police. They don't have the name to be pulling that off. They don't. They don't. I'm not sure, dude, is Rivers getting away with that? If you just ask yourself, who is Rivers? I kind of made the point, right? meaning the singer of Weezer, and that's who wrote, I believe, Sweater Song. So even more point that if it's like the bassist, ask any bassist you know in every band they're in. Ask any other, but as a matter of fact, don't ask the bassist. Ask any other member of a band you know. Talk to me about your bassist. Oh, Ricky. Jesus Lord. I'm like, dude, no, I mean, that's going to be true about the guitar player. I mean, because welcome to musician. But. The hell was this woman thinking? They asked her, by the way, drop the weapon numerous times, the reports are. She refused. They shot at her when she pointed the gun at them. I'm sorry. You point a gun at the police and they fire at you. That is going to be the least shocking thing ever to me.
The Stansberry Show.
Yeah, I hear that kind of obnoxious behavior is very big right now in the dangerous idiot community.
On Rock 106.9.
And we've got Homer with us from Sarshone Chrysler Dodge Jeep. Welcome back to the Stansberry Show. Probably been 20 years, if not longer, since you heard that in the garage. Weezer, Blue Album there. Pulled the deep cut out because a member of Weezer, the bassist, Scott Reiner, his wife pointed a gun at cops. She got herself shot in the shoulder. She lived. Gonna now be charged with the attempted murder of a police officer. That you will.
All right, we're past the bullshit drive.
Slow and all of that. And, you know, they'll get the high-priced lawyers involved, and you know those charges. I'm gonna guess here, if you'll allow some speculation, that we'll see a reduction of those. And I don't think that's necessarily just about the fact that she's married to a guy in Weezer. I don't think the basis from Weezer, you know what I mean? Like now the label and you get money and the this and the that, and like we don't need the hassle of it. But I think you're already going to have the hassle. You know, one of the things we didn't talk about is we did earlier this morning, when we discussed it, but they're playing, or scheduled to anyway, Coachella. Saturday. That will be an awkward moment. You know what I mean? And so my guess is we'll see a shift there. If not, get ready for so-and-so to be filling in, you know. I can't imagine you go out there, stand on that stage, and be like, yeah, no, so what's going on, right? Like, that can't be the thing. I can't imagine. Now, I got to thinking, I don't necessarily want to have, like, a super long-form conversation about it, and thank God I'm in charge of it. But, you know, I said the standard on this program since 2014 is don't point a weapon at police. Because I'm not going to I can't be real surprised if they fire at me. Now, of course, that is a blanket statement about something that happens a little too often in this country. And so, well, this one and this one and this one. It's like, well, yes. And I think most common sense people understand that. It's like case by case. It's like, well, when you look at that one, though. But I don't believe being in your home, not knowing what the situation is, seeing a civilian and police, and thinking to yourself, now I walk outside with my handgun in my hand. And then while being told to put it down more than once, the report is, point it at a police officer. I'm sorry. That, I don't believe, is the best use of your afternoon. I don't think any decision I just laid out there for you is wise. As a matter of fact, as somebody who has a firearm in their home, that is the opposite of what I would have done. I'm curious. Look out my window? Sure. Go out there with the weapon? No. But the point I was initially getting to is like, I think me saying, well, you don't go, right? Is a very Gen X-y. Now, they're kind of from my era, that's fair. But I don't think that's who's going to be at Coachella. Mostly, I guess maybe I don't know what the demographic of Coachella is. My guess is if it were Gen X, then I would know what it was. My guess is that mostly that crowd will be young. And given the conversations that we've had around this issue, because again, as I just mentioned, it happens a little too often, that the reaction of that audience might not be what it would have. Okay. Mostly young people kind of have an anti-cop mentality. Cops, just trying to kill our time. But it's mostly about buzzkill, not necessarily fear, right? That's the kind of the way it was for me and my friends growing up. Well, privilege, I guess, I suppose. But it was mostly about buzzkilling type stuff, right? But if a guy in a band, if his wife had like pointed a weapon at a cop, I don't think. I just started thinking about it. I was walking back into the studio. I was like, God, man, the one thing I haven't thought about is these guys are supposed to play a pretty big music festival Saturday night. Oof. Is the world upside down to the fact that we're this guy? Did they get? What's the responsibility of Weezer there? If you go out and it's raucous, like, hey, thank God. Hey, guys, can we? I mean, we're here to play Africa, so could we make not? Like, I mean, good Lord. Good Lord. I got to be honest with you. I'm in the, did you hear about this crazy business? I mean, that's the business I'm in. Did you hear about this? This is nuts. That's what I do. And I still, this one, when I saw it yesterday, I was like, you tell me a musician's wife walked out of the house with a gun. It's like, well, I mean, heroin and drugs and I don't know. Living with the loser musician for 30 years and God only knows what came with that and herpes and the thing. Dude, she had enough, baby. We got to hear her out, right? Like, this is... but Weezer? I guess that's what they say, man. Don't judge a book by its cover. Did you think Weezer were the firearms in the house, guys? The wife on top of it. Now, have the firearm in there. It's we both live here. We should both be... Maybe it's just like, well, I mean, they're realistic people, Dan. They live in Los Angeles. I mean, that's what I would think. And normally when I say things like that, people are like, oh, see, I knew it, the dog wasn't here, like the guy. Just put the We the People sticker on the Honda. We can see you underneath there. You know what I mean? Like, you get that kind of stuff, and I'm like, dude, I like the gun in the end table. Like, people normally start to, like, you know, pull out that, is he whistling? Is he whistling? You know what I mean? Why does the Weezer get that? I just wasn't prepared for that. Tommy Lee, well, even now, that would be crazy. But Weezer wasn't, they're not supposed to, these guys, they're not, what's happening? This isn't, they're nerds. You're not supposed to be doing this. Dude, you came in to usher out this version of the rock star. That's what, it just was weird. I mean, yeah, you just never know what people are going through, I suppose, right? And judging books and covers and reading and, you know what I mean? Get all the chapters going, I guess, but I don't know this got sent to me yesterday, I swear to God, by somebody who works for a news station in
Step into seeing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus terms and conditions apply.
Dustin's got an opinion here I'm not sure I'm allowed to have. When you have a platform like this one, I'm not sure I'm allowed to have this opinion. He says, this is why you need a two-parent household right here. Okay, so I'm going to stop here to say I don't know that this family in question with this 4-year-old is not a two-parent household. I don't know for sure that that's not the thing. I don't even know for sure which parent was at the store and who wasn't. Okay? He says, you need a two-parent house. If my wife went to the store, she goes without the kids. They stayed home with me. If she took the kids to the store, we all go. First sign of a kid acting up, out to the car, one of us goes with the kid. Now, I said, that's an opinion I'm not sure I'm allowed to have. When you have a platform like this and you speak freely to people who can just access it free by pressing a button, they don't really like opinions like that. Because it's not an opinion, it's a judgment on how they're building their families and raising their children. You're allowed to have that opinion. And I'm not even sure I disagree with it. Right? I'm not even sure I disagree with it. It's just when you have you gotta be a little careful. Then you add to that, what I just said is insane. Like I'm not saying it's right. What I just said is absolute insane, like a way of thinking. But welcome to where we are, right? Welcome to where we are. You add to that, I've never raised my own children. I'm telling people, dude, stay married and raise those things. Like, are you kidding me? Like, bro, like that ain't. Like, let me just say, they need that message, but nobody believes they need it from me. That's kind of one of those things. Well, what do you know? Enough to have not been in 3 divorces, right? Like, I mean, if you want to do that, I mean, I knew enough for that. But yes, I've always said, do I believe two-parent households are probably going to be an easier environment to raise children in? Yes. Everybody always tells me how it's the hardest job in the world. And I would agree, it's difficult. I have found that hard jobs, normally getting two sets of eyeballs on it, not necessarily the worst idea in the world.
The Stansberry Show.
I touch their hearts and souls with humor, with love, and maybe a dash of razzle-dazzle.
On Rock 106.9.
All right. Monday Night Football last night. I'm a little tired this morning. Stayed up, watched the whole damn thing there. Yes, I did gamble on it. I opened my BetMGM account right before the game started. I was like, let me just see. I was like, if there's any money in there, maybe I'll gamble. And I was like, there's $1,200 in here I didn't know I had. Apparently, I won some NASCAR bets I made pre-season that I didn't know, that I never went back and checked. I was like, apparently I know what I'm doing, right? This is like, all right, I'll throw a couple $100 at this Browns game, see what we get. Browns plus 6.5 on the road. By the way, if Jameis doesn't throw that second pick six, probably pretty good. Make a field goal, too, right? I mean, maybe get that done. A lot to unpack from last night's game. We'll get to Jameis here in a second. As a football fan, take my Browns fandom out of it. Like, take it out. Just if I'm watching a football game on a Monday night, just a guy drinking beers watching, right? You got a hell of a game last night. 32-41. Kind of had to watch it towards the end there. Quarterbacks give you, like, the thing, right? That's what you want a quarterback to be. They kind of give you, we'll go with Denver. They won first. 18-35, Bo Nix was. You'd like them to be a little bit more accurate than that. 294 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. One of those throws he made last night was like, welcome to the NFL, kid. That's a big boy throw. Like, he made a couple last night where it was like, oh, man, Denver may have found a kid. Right? But then, conversely, Jameis Winston. 34-58, 497 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. So again, take the Browns fandom out of it. You got action on Monday night. If I'm the NFL, I love what I saw last night. Because there's a way you look at it and go, maybe we flex out of this, right? I mean, Bo Nix, he might be pretty good, but it's Broncos-Browns. Like, what are we doing? Maybe we flex out of this. And last night shows you why, dude, you don't always know what you're going to get. Like, you might get a fireworks show. I think if you're just a football fan last night, you got a game where you're like, dude, this is pretty good for a Monday night. I'll take it. Now, as a Browns fan, does it suck? Yes. Yes. I got to look for moral victories now, though. Because the season's over. We know that. There's not much to be salvaged there. So the moral victories is what we're left with. I had fun watching the Cleveland Browns play football last night. Even in a loss. I'm sorry, I got to take it as a win. Is it better than an actual win? Of course not. But why do I watch the sport? To kill time, to cure boredom, to have fun. All of those things were accomplished last night. Still went to bed feeling like, shut the TV off and went, you don't win them all. I did not shut it off last night and going, oh my God, they don't even look competent. Because they looked more than competent. They did. A couple of injury issues inside the game, that kind of sucks. That's a little problematic. We've been kind of plagued with those. Most teams are by the time you get to this, time of the season. But, we've had some issues there. Jameis, want to talk a little Jameis? Let's do it. Here's what Jameis said after the game there.
I know I'm better than this. I know. I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes. You
gotta love him, dude. Like, he is. He's one of the best quotes in the NFL for sure. Like, he's just one of those guys. I'm trying to make sure this is edited properly here. There we go. He's one of those guys. And I said yesterday, you go from Deshaun Watson, who had zero likability. And by the way, did himself no favors to try to become a little bit more likable. He didn't even begin to try to do it. That was probably a mistake on his part, right? But you go from like what is the least likable guy in the league. I mean, geez, did you hear the way Troy Aikman and Joe Buck talked about that guy last night? I mean, people just do not like him. I'm not saying they don't have reasons. I'm saying it was on full display last night. Okay? So you go from the least likable guy in the league to one of the most likable guys. You saw what happened. I pushed those stories away. Jameis comes with plenty of negative all season. This Browns team is a playoff team. They wasted a year. That's how non-Browns fans even see it. So imagine what the more delusional Browns fans amongst us, imagine how they see it, right? Yes. All right, well, let's talk about that a little bit. Because I think we're all blaming the wrong person. When we heard the run it back with Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, a lot of people were shocked. Not everybody, but some people were shocked by that. And I said, well, Kev is two-time coach of the year, man. Like, and this is the first year he's been here where it's really been, like, off the rails. Like, there were growing pains and there were other things and some of these other issues with Kev, but it wasn't like, Jesus, dude, this guy sucks and we got to move on. It's not really been the thing with Kev. I thought the fall guy may have been Andrew Berry because Kev was two-time coach of the year. And if they're looking for a fall guy, GM kind of might make this move, this and that, but they didn't. I think we're blaming the wrong person here. I don't think it was Andrew Berry, and I don't think it was Kevin Stefanski. I don't think football people are going to sit there in the room, dig their heels in and go, no, bad football, that's what we're riding it out. Bad football, that's what we're doing. Remember I said earlier in the season, the problem with this year isn't the fact that they're losing games, it's the fact that it's unwatchable. It's not even fun, it sucks, they're anemic. You think Kev wanted that? Kev was being talked about as like one of the next offensive geniuses in the NFL. You think he wants people thinking he's a dope? My guess is probably not. Andrew, plenty of articles. One of the next bright young GMs in the league. Now, bright people make mistakes all the time. I think they were told, you're not going with Jameis. Yeah, I hear you. But I gave this kid all this money. And I'm already being killed because I gave this kid all this money. I'm going to look worse if we sit this kid. And I'm paying him the money. And I care more about that than I do about this over here. Which is a mistake, of course. Because if you just start winning games, nobody gives a damn about anything. Again, Bo Nix looks like he can play. You hear any Denver Bronco fan talking about how they paid Russell Wilson all that money? And hamstrung them 10 years, they're not going to be able to win, they're not going to be able to... No. Sean Payton knows how to evaluate offensive talent and went, oh, dude, give me that kid from Oregon. Watch this. Went and got a kid who can play. Now all of a sudden everybody forgot. Doesn't matter anymore. Jimmy is the culprit here. Kevin, you don't think Kevin would have given you the quarterback he thought was going to win games? You don't think he wants to save his job? He didn't make the call to go pay, and he didn't make the call to guarantee the money. This has got ownership written all over. And I don't know why anybody walks away thinking, like, why did Jimmy Haslam give any leeway whatsoever at all? Like, he's done nothing to make you think, like, and he's trying to do it right, but the GM is screwing it up. Like, I think he is the culprit here. I saw a lot of this last night. You got to get rid of this front office. I understand how people come to that decision. But I think it's like, you just got to take it a step further. I don't believe Kevin Stefanski wanted to ride with Deshaun Watson. Well, what did he say? He said it all the time. Right. People put too much stock in what these jobs are. NFL coach, $9 million a year, whatever the thing is. It's still a job. Part of your job is to make your boss look good. Part of your job is to sell the boss's line. It's absolutely part of my job to help make my boss's life easier. I told you, like, I've been dealing with some issues with this program, right? And I said, normally I'm the kind of guy who blows up, bitches and conventions and talks about how everything's terrible. And I haven't been doing it a whole lot with as many problems as I've had with this, right? And one of the reasons is I told you. Some of you know what's been happening inside the broadcast industry over the last couple of months, years. And that dude is at his wit's end with a lot of that decision making, and a lot, by the way, he gets told what to do, and he's sick to his stomach over it. So make his life easier right now, because it's what he needs. So when the one computer program doesn't work to the best of its ability, you don't kind of necessarily snap, because it's my job to make his life easier at some point. And that's all Kevin Andrew Barry were doing. Lying to you, the polite lie, protecting the owner. Again, believe the person being interviewed? Why? Because they're talking? Like, that makes no sense to me. It doesn't. Sometimes people are telling you what their boss wants you to be hearing. And just because you're a head coach, just because you think these guys are just going to why? They're just going to stand there? You're talking about millionaires versus billionaires. It's big bank, take little bank, man.
The Stansberry Show.
Would you mind speaking in a civilized language?
On Rock 106.9.
Talking a little. Jameis Winston, Cleveland Browns, losing on the road last night in Denver. 41-32, and I said, well, it's competitive. And yeah, Jameis gave you the pick sixes there, and here's what he had to say about that.
I know I'm better than this. I know I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes.
Bro, it ain't the Lord, dog. It's your eyesight. He tried to tell us that getting that LASIK was going to take care of this. Nah, man, he's a little too much of that old school gunslinger thing. And the gunslinger is a better story than it is real. There are people, I would be among them, who will tell you Brett Favre should have won more. He trusted his arm a little too much. Threw a little too many picks because he believed it. Now, you can have one of two problems normally in this department. You can have Tyrod Taylor, dude's wide open, throw it, pussy! You can have that. Or, oh my God, Jameis, what the hell was that? Right? Like you can, and both are maddening. And I posted this last night. What I like about Jameis is this. He threw that first pick six. He comes back in that next offensive set like it never happened. Oof, just rifling balls wherever you want. He even threw one that was like, oh man, that should have maybe been picked off. No fear. Give me the ball, I'm slinging it. He's got that Ted Lasso, be a goldfish thing, like he does. Like Jameis has that. And you kind of want your quarterback to have that. You want your quarterback walking to the sideline after throwing a pick six, going, damn it. What the hell's the matter with me? Cover two, I didn't see his ass. They rolled him over. What the hell am I doing? Right? Like that's, give me some of that. But then I want you to have forgotten about it by the time the center gives you the ball again. This is one of my biggest problems with golf. Come on, man. Like, there's been more than enough times where it's like, James, what are we doing here? I mean, the scoreboard has to look like Tennessee, dog. Like, for real, like it had to. I mean, come on. How much money you gotta have before you're comfortable with who you are? Come on. We gotta go all the way there. This is Jimmy Haslam's fingerprints are all over this. Now I made a stupid decision, and instead of fixing it, what I'm gonna do is double down. That kind of sounds like JH to me, man. It kind of sounds like Haslam. I don't think this is Kev. I don't think it's Andrew Barry, and I think that's why the Browns ownership told you they're going to run it back with those guys. Because they're going to run it back with those guys. Because I think that's Jimmy Haslam telling you. They didn't make this call, I did. Beyond that, I think Jimmy's such an egomaniac that he would care that you know that. I make the call. At the end of the day, buck stops here. Right? Kind of one of those guys. A little needs you to believe he's in charge all the time, little less than confident about what his role in the situation is because he can't seem to get it figured out, right? A little meddle too much. You probably don't hear about it as much as you maybe do another guy who's guilty of this in the NFL because, well, he has less of a personality. But there's a Jerry Jones issue here. I said about the Commanders, they got rid of that owner. 20 minutes later, they're good. They hired 4 football people, and it's like, geez, look. I mean, it's like 20 minutes later. That's why I'm not looking to get rid of the front office. It's like, well, wait a minute. All right, I'll tell you this. Do you mean, if you don't believe that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are good at their jobs, I think, okay, fine, that's fair. I mean, there's a lot of different opinions out there. Do you believe if they went to a better ownership group, that those guys would not be able to bring stability to a franchise that's a little like maybe lost? I don't buy it, man. I'm sorry, I don't. I think I always go with the availability test. If you make Kevin Stefanski available today, I'm telling you, there's 4 teams calling immediately. Immediately. I think the Raiders are on that list. I think the Patriots are on that list. I think the Jags are on that list. I think the Bears are on that list. Maybe more. Forget the colleges that would call. Forget that. He could probably, I mean, right? I mean, come on, like, let's not screw around a whole lot here. Like, let's not mail, though maybe you do want to screw around. But I think that's why the front office isn't being wiped out. It's because this wasn't their decision, and Jimmy Haslam is trying to tell everybody that. No, I'm the big swinging D in Cleveland. I made this call.
The Stansberry Show.
I just keep waiting for a lotto ticket out of my boring existence.
On Rock 106.9.
So yesterday we were talking to you about UNESCO running some data points down on influencing, right? Because it's a big thing. Not everybody, a lot of people put this headline out a couple of times a year. These kids today want to be influencers more than they want to be doctors. Yeah, man, like if you would have asked, kids in my age, people my age when we were in high school, what we would have wanted to be, I don't know what it would have been, whatever the popular thing. Pauly Shore, probably, right? Like that's probably, I want to be an MTV VJ. As a matter of fact, I wanted to be an MTV VJ. I mean, right? So like there's a little bit of that. And we got to talking about influencing yesterday. And the reason is that UNESCO ended up finding out that there's a huge fake news problem with the influencers. And of course, most people already knew that. The only reason I think it's really, not the only reason, one of the issues I have with this is that there's this mentality that legacy media has lied to you forever.
We do.
I mean, we gotta know, right? And like somehow the truth is out there. You go find your own personal Fox Mulder, and you will then be enlightened with the truth out there. I mean, I don't think that's the reality. Phrases like this are really popular right now. You're the media now. And I agree. You are the media. Where I will then take pause before I agree with other things is on whether or not that's actually a net positive overall. I'm suspicious, no.
Why are the fucking roads always closed where I need to go?
Not that I'm right. Suspicious, no. And you ever like see somebody post about like what you do for a living? And you read the comments? And you're like, oh my God, dude, these people have no idea how any of this works. I deal with that a lot, right? My company's been in the headlines a lot recently. I have been reading comment sections quite a bit about the radio industry. None of those people are even in the ballpark of being remotely close to anything that actually went down. Not even close. Happens all the time. We got fake news going around the world from right here in Canton, Ohio. You may remember this one. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the pets. Heated subject, remember? Heated. Ohio, at the center of that, Springfield. And I remember saying that. Well, I think probably what's happening here is we have 2 instances of this, and people are now exaggerating the point, right, that they're seeing it. Not that there's not something to be alarmed about. If you see an instance of it. And then what had happened is that a canton woman, actually, on like film, on body cam video, had like been like after had killing a cat, had been seen gnawing on Alexis Farrell. And then that was used as proof that people were right about the accusations of what was happening. And I remember telling one of the biggest independent now, and I gotta be honest with you, God knows I've made plenty. I'll make 10 more before the show's over today. You should try to correct mistakes when you can. Not that I've been perfect on that either. But like, there's a difference between a mistake and being willfully ignorant. So now the news goes out that she has now been sentenced. She's going to spend a year in prison for killing and eating a cat. It drew international attention, national attention, and sure enough, Stark County Common Pleas Judge Craig Forshio gives the maximum sentence to her. This yesterday after pleading guilty to cruelty to companion of animals, a 5th degree felony. Quote, I cannot express the disappointment, shock, disgust that this crime brought to me. That's said by the judge. I don't know what could prompt anybody to want to eat a cat. She interrupted the judge after a statement saying that wasn't necessarily what happened. It's going to be a pain in the
ass to drive up here today.
Okay, well, it's my turn to talk, he responded. It's my courtroom.
Suddenly everybody wants to do road construction.
He said a person's heart can be judged by how they treat animals. And she had not shown much of a heart. You've embarrassed this county, he had told her. You've embarrassed this nation. More importantly, you have embarrassed yourself. To me, you present quite a danger to our community. This is repulsive to me. And I mean that anybody would do this to an animal, and an animal's like a child. I don't know if you understand that or not. Absolutely, she responded. They bring a lot of love to a lot of people, he said. They don't have a voice, but their only voice today is me, and I'm going to exercise this voice very loudly. Whew. As somebody who doesn't necessarily disagree with what he's saying, a lot of like tipping the hand of your personal opinion on a story here, right? Like that's, and again, I don't necessarily disagree with him. We could talk about him and this ruling and all of that a little later, but sure enough, going around the world yesterday is, see, he was always right about this. And I had to tell some of the biggest independent journalists out there, no, he necessarily wasn't. I live in the town where this happened. I would need GPS to get to Springfield today. She is a citizen of this country, and we're talking about a one-off incident. This could not be any further from people being right about this. So again, where do we go to be told the truth? Because it's not going to be the independent journalists. Because they for sure are biased. Their bias is what drove them to be an independent journalist. Like, come on. Come on. Now, somebody's probably out there on the up and up. Want to guess that they're never going to be as popular as the people who aren't? Yeah, that's probably how that's going to go with the internet. Wouldn't even be shocked.
The Stansberry Show.
What's up with this guy's voice? Sounds like a monster.
On Rock 106.9.
By the end of the hour, get one of you in to see AC/DC. That show May 28th. Huntington Bank Field. I'll be pretty good, pretty reckless on that too. AC/DC is a fun show, man. You know what, 90% of what they're going to play, even if you're like not a diehard AC/DC fan, I mean, you know 90% of the catalog. I mean, obviously the low-hanging fruit is they only made the one song, right? Like, there's that. But I mean, you know Hell's Bells, you know Highway to Hell, you know Thunderstruck, you know Whole Lotta Rosie, you know If You Want Blood, you know It's a Long Way to the Top, Problem Child, right? God, they're pretty good, AC/DC, right? Yeah, they were all right. Yeah, AC/DC was all right. Money Talks, yeah, a lot going on there. Get somebody into that show. We have been talking about fake news. It's everywhere. And look, I don't pretend to have a solution. I really don't. I kind of subscribe to the Bill Maher problem with the fake news as far as legacy media goes. It's not so much that they feel like will fabricate like a flat out lie for me, then a lot of times what they'll do is they'll only tell me what helps their side of the story. Like they'll leave out a part that it's like, well, that kind of flies in the face of everything you just said, right? Like, and they will kind of leave that part out. That's a problem for you. That's a problem for me. Now, that didn't start with you or me. This was the thing that was happening to your parents and grandparents. I mean, right? Like this, I mean, and that's the real issue is like, what do we really know? I brought it up because of the whole they're eating the pets conversation. That obviously from Springfield. It was hot during the election, right? And then there was a story out of Canton where a woman who, and again, I'm not born and raised in Canton. I've been looking in some of the personal neighborhood stories that I just won't know, right? And so people had told me when that story broke, it's like, man, Alexis has been, it's kind of like, if you're in that area, you kind of know, dude, like there are people who kind of have a little bit of a rep for having some problems. And she's, you know, one of those people, right? There's a mental health issue. And she had been reported by, and then cops pulled up and had been seen like kind of gnawing on the cat's head there. And she'd been sentenced yesterday. We've been talking about this because, again, when it happened, it was like, look, here's proof of what's happening in Springfield. And I said, well, no, back then I had to go to the internet. Not that anybody listened to me, but I was telling a bunch of those people, no, it didn't. I live where that happened. If somebody said, hey, Stansbury, meet me in Springfield today, let's play a little golf, I'm going to be excited, right? I'm going to get to play a course I've never played. And then right after my excitement ends, I'm going to look up online, which way do I go? I don't know where it is, right? And so, like, they're not the same thing. They weren't the same thing. But now yesterday, the news breaks that, hey, she's been charged. And so it became, look, he was always right about this. The media lied again. It's like, no, they didn't. And sure enough, you go read all the comments, like, thank God we have the truth now, and thank God there's this, and thank God. And look, I'm pro people saying what they want. I am. How could I not be? Look at what the hell I'm doing right now to make my living. So say what you want, all right? But, like, this whole we're being told the truth now is like, dude, it's scary. Because, like, well, sometimes you are. And sometimes you're just being given the content because I need the views, I need the this, just like MSNBC, just like CNN, just like Fox News, just like, I mean, that's the game. Did you think we were going to move where the eyeballs went and the whole system was going to change? Why do you think those places did it that way in the beginning? Because that's how you make the bread, honey. That's how the money's made. This is a money issue. It will always be a money issue. You know how this is going to work. The young are going to show up to the internet and we're going to change this or we're going to do that and they're going to try it. It's not going to work. And then they're going to get beaten down by the system, turn into the money-hungry, greedy D-bags everybody else is, and start running them channels like that. Because if it bleeds, it leads. Chicken and egg, man. It kind of is, right? Who failed who first? Like I've said about the news. You know, people used to say before the lying thing really just got like thrown at them, it was the sensationalism was the big accusation for the legacy media, right? Oh, they're sensationalistic. They are. Who's to blame for that? You know, I used to defend it by saying this. Well, how dare they present the information in the only way in which an American would ever pay attention to it? I mean, well, color me shocked. I mean, hey, we want people to watch this. They won't if we just, I mean, if it's boring, they won't. Action news is everywhere. Now, they don't do that as much anymore, but you take the point. And so sure enough, yesterday now, the new media is out there telling everybody, look, we got this right. It's like, no, you didn't. And second, you know what the new media said about this sentence yesterday? They had her 30, and I would have checked online. Oh my God, it is 30? And then it wasn't. It's a year. Yeah, just off by the 29 there. No biggie. Just off by a 30-year-old. I mean, like, good God. Good God. sure enough, I said to a couple of people online yesterday, I don't know why I did it. Because it's Canton and I want to defend it, right? And I feel like a little brother disease, like, right? People, oh, look, it was always true. And I said, no, it wasn't. I live in this city. That's not, like, this is, like, literally not what's happening. Well, I don't know if just saying only one person was doing it is owning Trump. And I wrote back to the guy. I'm not trying to own Trump, dog. Not even a little. And yeah, Ohio's got plenty of problems. Alexis Farrell among them. This radio show among them. There's a lot. But conflating one issue with the other makes everybody go, next time you want to try to tell me something, I don't know if I can believe you now. It seems to work every single time. And so, like, and I said this last week, are the Browns now looking around like, oh, bro, we got the wrong Kev out of Minnesota? Like, I don't think so. I think Stefanski's still pretty good and a good, but what I'm saying is true. Like, an ownership group is
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night. All day.
We got the fella, bro. What's going on, Ron White?
I'm feeling good, finally, after my little bout with fucking COVID.
They got you. They got you with the new COVID.
They got me with the new COVID,
I thought the new COVID was total bullshit. I thought it was like a baby cold.
I had, you know, my girlfriend raised 2 kids, and she said she's never seen anybody puke as much as I did for 2 days.
Wow.
And it was brutal. It was just bile, and I don't even know if I've ever been that sick. It only lasted that part of it a couple of days.
That's interesting. I wonder if you got multiple things at the same time. Do people usually puke a lot if they get COVID? Jamie, do you know?
I don't remember that being a symptom.
I don't remember having that either. You might have had a couple things at the same time.
I
Because there was a bad flu going around too.
Well, I went to Vegas and early, and I just thought I had a cold when I went, and my doctor here gave me a shot of steroids, and I felt way fucking better. I mean, I felt better everywhere. I was more flexible. I was like, fuck, I want to do steroids every goddamn day.
What kind of steroid was it?
I don't know, but whatever it was, man, I could touch the floor without bending my knees, without stretching at all.
Like a cortisone shot?
I don't know. She said steroids. She gave it to me. I don't ask a lot of questions. You know.
So you just felt loose?
I felt loose and good. I played really good golf, and then I got there, and it started catching up with me. I had my girlfriend. I'm staying in the mansion down at MGM Grand, which is pretty sweet. And I had that show just on Saturday. We got there on Wednesday, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm not going to make it. I felt it all start to deteriorate, so I called this doctor.
Damn, it was so bad you didn't think you were going to make it on Saturday.
I thought I would need another shot of steroids. So I called a doctor. I had the hotel call a doctor, and I thought I was getting the doctor that was, whatever it takes to get through the show.
Right.
And, but that's not the doctor I got. The doctor I got was, we need to, let's test you for COVID. I'm like, no, I don't have COVID. He said, I won't charge you if it's negative, which didn't make any sense to me. And I said, well, okay. And then it came up positive for COVID again, because I don't think I have COVID. So we did it again, came up positive again. Not only would he not give me the COVID shot, he told me to quit taking the antibiotics I was already on. And he did nothing except for call the CDC to tell them I had COVID, and they both said, you cannot do the show. I'm like, wait a minute, you're the wrong doctor. I don't want the fucking retire today shit. I want to, your drummer's a junkie, he's out of heroin, get him some fucking something to get him through this goddamn
So they
show.
were telling you can't do the show because you had a specific kind of a cold, a COVID cold. So if you had the flu, would he have stopped you from doing the show?
I'd say absolutely not.
That's so weird.
I don't think it would even come up.
That's so weird because right now, like the deaths from COVID now are so low. Like the idea that this is still a pandemic and they still have to treat it differently than they do a cold.
They do. And I was faced with, do I cancel a show? Well, that's not the same as St. Louis when they just moved the date. The people from St. Louis come back out. This is Las Vegas.
Right.
A lot of those people come specifically to see me because I don't do all those shows that I used to do. So it's kind of, if you want to come see it, that's a good place. And so it's a problem. You know, it's a refund. You got to refund them all because those... You wouldn't be there.
Most importantly,
drive east on Tuscarawas Street West, State Route 172. Then, in a quarter mile, turn right onto Ref Road Southwest.
Fans are bummed out.
Yeah, I've disappointed them. Everybody's here. Fuck, let's do the show. So I just sat there. I didn't know what to do. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to call MGM Grand and tell them what the fuck's going on and let it be their call, you know. And they were like, so how do you feel? I'm like, I feel like I can make it through the show. And they're like, well, I say let's just go ahead and do it. It's a big room. You're not within 6 feet of anybody.
It's 2025.
It's 2025.
If you told me you did tell me you had COVID, I'd give you a big hug on Monday. I saw you on Monday.
Yeah.
When we did Kill Tony.
Right, that was
You were a super spreader on Kill Tony. You son
big
of a
time.
bitch.
I'm an asshole. The biggest asshole ever. It would be so
Nobody
horrible.
got sick.
I know, nobody
got sick.
And it wasn't until the next day that I got sick. That's when the vomiting started. It wasn't in Vegas. It was day 2. It was Tuesday after Kill Tony. That's when I got sick. And it was fucking awful. I mean, for 2 days, just...
Steroid shot?
No, nobody would give me one. So I don't know, man. I just got the wrong goddamn.
You gotta go to Gold's Gym.
Yeah, right.
Find the biggest guy in the room and say, "Who's your
dude, you got
doctor?"
something, don't you?
You know you got something, bro. Come on, man. Aren't you a Ron White fan? Give me some fucking steroids.
Just to get me around the corner. So
yeah.
So I'm back. I feel fine today.
That's good.
And which is really good.
You coming to the club tonight?
They asked me to. I don't know who's got the set tonight. I don't know who's got the show.
We do. Fuck it. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. I'll go.
Let's go, Ron White. Plus, bottom of the barrels tonight too.
The Kill Tony was on Netflix last night.
Isn't that amazing? I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for Tony and Red Band and for everybody on the show. I'm just so happy that show is now on Netflix.
It's sweet, you know. I was never sure what exactly it was. He's got a dream that he's fucking making it work, and he's making it work with hard work.
He works hard. He works really hard at that show, man.
Really does.
I mean, I call him in the middle of the day sometimes, and he's just laying out like how he's going to do the show, what he's got. He's planning it. He's wandering around his apartment, writing notes down, just planning it out in his head. He's legit. Tony's legit. This is the thing about success. It's product of hard work. And in that example, I fucking know it's a product of hard work. Those guys did that show every goddamn Monday for 10 plus years.
Starting with 6 people in the crowd.
I was one of them. I was there when they were doing the Belly Room show. But I always encourage it. I encourage people to do shows when no one's watching. Because I think that the only way something builds is you got to get it started. You can't think you're going to launch a podcast and it's going to have 1 million downloads. It's not that way. And you don't want it that way anyway. You want to get good at it. You want to learn how to do it. You want to iron out the kinks.
I agree.
And they did it. They fucking did it. They did it, and now it's one of the best shows in the world. It's the funniest fucking show on television, for sure.
You know, as far as just a fucking entertaining thing to goddamn do, I mean, just to come down, you know, my last girlfriend was so addicted to the show. She would come almost every Monday. And it's hard for me to go down there on Kill Tony night because they got the green rooms hocked out to 19,000 people, and there's no place for me to go. And, And so, you know, but she was addicted to it. I mean, just as something fun to do, you know.
It's a fun thing to do.
Because you're going to get some great comics. And it doesn't matter if the comic eats it on stage because it's still funny. You know, that's not the point. The point is that everybody has access, you know, in some way, and there's no shortcut to get there, because I tried to shortcut it because I thought I could because I was Ron White, and my banker said, yeah, I've been doing stand-up and I'd love to get on. I'm like, no problem, I'll tell him, I'll fix this for you. And he was like, yeah, Dad, no, you can't. It's a bucket pull. That's the only way he can do it, is to get his name in there.
It's a legit bucket pull.
It
really is. And sometimes one of our guys gets in, like Hassan's been on a couple of times now, you know, and sometimes not. You put your name in the bucket. You'll see. There's hundreds of names in that bucket. It's a great idea. It's a great idea. It really is.
And it's inclusive to anybody. I mean, it's amazing to me who he had the vision to put anybody, no matter what kind of physical shape, if you can't even say a word, and handicapped on top of that, you know,
all you have to do is just give it a go.
Give it a go.
Give it a go. Try to be funny. Do your best. Just do your best.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of people doing their best.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled for the success of it.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it really is.
It's fun too. It's like, it makes everything more fun. When there's a fun thing like that out there in the world, more of us have fun. We have more fun at the clubs. We have more fun talking about comedy.
Yeah, and it, you know, it made me really proud too. Just to walk out on stage, and it's, you know, it's you and Shane and Segura and Tony, and these are my friends. You know, these are my buddies. This is my tribe right here, and we're doing something really special, and it's a fucking hoot. You know,
it is a fucking hoot.
It's a fucking hoot.
Yeah, and it's that club's the best place for it.
I had a nightmare the other night.
Oh no.
Yeah, and it was about the club, and that I was the headliner that night. And I got down there, and there were like 9 11-year-old girls, and that's all the tickets we could sell. And I was like, did you tell them I was coming? I'm like, yeah, we put it in the thing, and nobody showed up, Ron, except for these chicks.
If I was your psychiatrist, I'd sit down and go, Ron, what do you think this means to you? what inside of your subconscious makes you think that only 11-year-old girls would come to see you do comedies?
That's because for 38 years I've been waiting for the end. You know, and it finally happened that night in the middle of that drink. I knew it would happen.
Things like that, it drives me crazy. I don't understand how you can think like that.
I just always have, because it never works as good as it works for me. You know, I mean, it's worked okay for you, but I mean, you know, these kind of careers don't last forever. Unless they do, and there's not very many of them that do. You know, I guess so.
I think the thing that was going on before was everybody thought you did comedy to get to something. You did comedy to get to the movies. You did comedy to get to TV. And if you didn't, then you were a failure. And you thought of yourself as a failure, and other people thought of you as a failure too. And that would diminish your confidence. That would diminish your draw. And only a few people survived that and escaped. And a lot of great comics, like Richard Jeni, for instance, he got caught up in that and felt like he was a failure and a loser and wound up fucking killing himself. Meanwhile, he was one of the greatest comics that's ever lived. He just missed a boat. He missed the internet boat. He would have been...
Yeah, I missed it too.
You didn't, though. But you didn't. You didn't miss it. You didn't. You caught us. You caught the whole wave, brother. You came to the comedy store at the right time.
I did catch everybody there. Just get
these young guys, and you're like, this is incredible. How do you do?
Right.
You know, now.
Or you know the growth spot to know how to get. I already feel unprofessional. professional.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And I
help you out with that. They just could trick you. You shouldn't get gas.
She killed herself.
5 minutes.
Jesus.
Yeah. Half-hour drive to the corner store. 15-minute life. He was sitting in a lawn chair, and I ran into him, and I was like, how are you doing? What are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm fine. He goes, we made up. He goes, it was a lot. He goes, obviously we had a lot to work out, and he laughed about it. And I said, well, that's great, man. And then he pushed the chair back, and he was gone. He goes, it was a lot. He goes, obviously we had a lot to work out, and he laughed about it. And I said, well, that's great, man. And then he pushed the chair back, and he was gone. And then I woke up. Like, he was gone. It was one of the most, I've had 2 very realistic dreams in my life that seemed so realistic they didn't even make sense. And that was one of them, where it was like, I felt like he was there. I feel like he wanted me to let it go. It was so weird. I felt like, he wanted, it's like, that's how he was whenever they would fight. Because I don't like fights which sounds crazy because I commentate on fights, but I don't like, the reason why I got good at fighting in a really weird roller coaster ride of I hate you, I love you, I hate you, like, it just went too far, it went crazy.
Well, I lived in Mexico for a while with a woman who eventually took her own life.
Oof.
And I was already out of the picture for a couple of years, and when that happened, but when I was in Mexico with her, I knew that I was trapped. Number one, I moved down there to start a fucking pottery company because I was frustrated with stand-up comedy. They had just cut the Funny Bone chain had just cut my pay by 1/3.
Ugh.
Because they realized that I just worked for them.
Oh, boy.
And I couldn't patch this schedule together without them.
Oh, what a bunch of
assholes. And I told the guy that ran the Funny Bone, Gerald Kubak, to go eat a steaming bowl of fuck. And
I don't even know what that would look like.
I don't know, but it cost me a lot of work to say it, but it was still fun to say. And,
wow.
But I moved with her down to Mexico, and I knew that she was crazy. And the way it came up was she had called a friend of mine and told her that sometimes she stands over my bed with a knife and just stares at me. And my son was there also part of the time. And I'm like, well, that's over. I got to get out of this. But the big thing was I was depressed because of my situation, because I didn't see a way out of it.
Yeah.
I didn't see a way out. I just couldn't see a path. And it got to where when I was around people, I couldn't talk, and I had no tribe. At all. I was cut off from all my friends, and it's just something I did to myself with that move down to Mexico, which I was there for 3 years, and it was just the worst time of my life, and I really didn't think I'd ever come out of it. I mean, I never thought I could even get back to a place where I could sit down and have a conversation with somebody. That's how depressed I was, and it was funny because I moved into Mexico. I had the biggest truck that Ryder makes, pulling the biggest trailer they make. My van pulling the biggest trailer they
Jesus
make. All
fucking
headed
Christ.
down south.
All your shit.
To everything. Moved to Mexico.
Why Mexico?
Because my girlfriend at the time did this mosaic tile application to existing pottery. And she would sell it at art shows or craft shows, whatever. And it would sell really fast, but it took her 6 months to make any of it. So I thought, why wouldn't you just go down to Mexico and train a bunch of women how to make it and let her orchestrate it? And I fucking did it. I was part of that sucking sound that Ross Perot was talking about going to Mexico. 3 years later, I had the exact same equipment headed on north out of Mexico with the same exact truck, trailer, everything. That was a bad idea.
3 years.
And
wow.
But
she must have been hot.
She was so hot. Oh, she was so hot. And I'd never been with a hot woman before. I'd never been with, I mean, it was my girl, you know. And,
yeah.
And she was so beautiful. I'm like, I'll be with her even though I hate her, just so I can look at her. You know, not just stare at her. And that'll be enough. That's all I'll need. Turns out I needed a little more than that. So,
yeah.
But
you can only tolerate so much.
And then I ended up marrying this other girl that was horrible. I mean, I know she's probably listening to this right now, so I don't mean horrible, but horrible. And but she always searched the internet for things about me so she could say, hey, this person said thanks for signing my girlfriend's tickets. What, are you out there signing girlfriend's tickets? Yeah, I'll sign anybody's ticket. You know, just always looking. Every time she'd turn on her computer, it made me sick to my stomach because I didn't know what she was going to come up with. You know, I'm no angel anyway. And but so that girl's sister, when she killed herself, sent me a post that my ex-wife found. She printed it saying that she killed herself. She brought it in and handed it to me. And all I did was sit down on the couch, and she goes, oh, now you loved her. I'm like, just give me a minute, okay?
This is her sister doing this?
No, this is my wife.
Oh.
She got the note from her, she got the letter from her sister and handed it to me, and she saw it affected me. And she's like,
Jesus.
oh, now you loved her.
Jesus Christ. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
A lady that you used to live with killed herself.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, just give me a minute.
Give me a minute.
Yeah, give me a minute.
Jesus, it's a human being that you know that killed themselves. How many people do you think you know that have killed themselves?
Oh, man. Let's see. Not very many that I really knew. My best friend, one of my best friends from childhood, killed himself, and but we thought he died at the massacre in Waco because he was a big Koresh guy.
Oh boy, you missed the massacre?
Yeah, he missed the massacre, but we thought thought maybe he's there when it was all going down, but he wasn't, and eventually it was an odd thing anyway. He's a dear friend from childhood. His dad was the music director at my church, and he and I used to buff the floors of the church with those big bluffs. That was our job on one day.
God damn it!
Go down there. And we'd actually seen.
I'm going to fucking North Canton. Fuck this.
Well, I dream I saw the nights, you know. We just sing the fuck out of Neil Young songs. That's the only tape I had, you know. I know you and him had a little problem, but
this is fucking bullshit.
You were so sweet about that.
I love that guy. I love his music. He didn't get it.
No, he didn't.
That's all it is.
That was a dumb thing.
Well, he just missed. He didn't understand what was happening, and nobody did. I don't blame him. Nobody did. I'd talk to him in a heartbeat. Even though he pulled his music and tried to get me removed from Spotify.
Right.
I still don't care. I love that guy, and I loved his music. Even after he did it, I still listened to his music. He missed. He didn't know what was happening. He got tricked. Well, a lot of people got tricked. You know, a lot of people thought that this was the only way out. We had to listen to these evil, lying fucks that were telling us that everybody had to take this vaccine. There's no other medicine available, and if you didn't, everybody was going to die. And, you know, got caught up in it. They got us all, though. They got the whole country. You can't be mad at the whole country.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right.
I don't want to be mad at anybody anymore online.
I don't either.
As I get older, I'm less and less inclined. There's people I don't wish to talk to.
Right.
I don't need that in my life. I don't need whatever you bring in my life. But I don't wish you bad.
Yeah, I have really, really healthy boundaries when it comes to people that don't make me feel good. You know, I just won't hang around.
Yeah, I don't want to be around making fun. I'm like, Who cares?
Yeah, no.
Good luck to you. I'll give you a hug.
I got some other shit going on.
Yeah, I have friends.
But you know what? I'll tell you what makes you a good friend. When you get successful, and I'll just talk about successful like I am, it's hard to find anybody that'll disagree with you. You know, that because there's something to gain. And that's true with you, too. I mean, that, you know, you hold a lot of power, and you have something a lot of people fucking want. And I know that because I have a box of, and I should have brought them and given them to you anyway. I'll bring them to the club tonight, but it's just a guy I met that owns a sunglass company. And he makes sunglasses for hunting. And so he said,
wait a minute. Who wears sunglasses when they hunt?
I don't know. Nobody?
You can't wear them when, well, I guess maybe some people probably do. I bet rifle hunters do.
Yeah, he said that one of them are specifically for bow hunting. It makes you see the target better or something.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so he's got an invention.
I don't know. I don't hunt, so I don't really know anything about hunting in glasses. He just said he was going to send a box. Would you give them to Joe? And I said, yeah, I'll give them to him. And I didn't. So
I would think the glasses would get in the way because, you know, when you shoot with a bow, there's a thing called a peep sight. So you have your string, and in your string is one of the things that's sewn into your string is this little plastic circle.
Sure.
Do you know what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know it lines up with the scope, the housing of the bow?
No, okay. I don't know that.
So with a peep sight is when you draw back and you don't look through the string, you look to the circle that's on the string, sewed into the string. And that circle, you line it up exactly with your sight housing. And so where your pin is, it's all about like staying calm and keeping that pin there. And you want to keep it all like connected together. So my eye is like right there, like right next to this peep sight. If I had glasses, it might get in the way. You know what I mean? Like, because the string is touching my nose and the thing is right there. And I'm just drawing back and I'm looking at it like that, right through.
I'll give them to you, see what you think.
I don't know anybody who shoot, but I know some hunters that have glasses, so there must be a way to adjust.
I don't know. That's what he told me, though.
Okay. I'll try it out.
All right.
I'm open to anything. You never know. And anything that makes you good at that, that's a difficult thing to do. You know? Like, if I meet a guy and he's like, I'm a bow hunter. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, anyway, what I'm saying is this.
Go ahead.
What I'm saying is this. That you're one of the only friends that I have that'll say, no, that's fucked up. you don't agree with me to make me feel better because you have something, I have something you need.
Right.
You know, you'll go ahead and go, nah.
Every now and then. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. It's the end of tax season, and I know by now you all are probably sick of numbers. But there's one more expense we need to talk about, and that's how much you're investing in your well-being. The cost of traditional therapy can be outrageous, between $100 and $250 a month or even more. So, how do you get the help you need without blowing your monthly budget? Use BetterHelp. With BetterHelp, you pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, saving you money and time. It could even help you save up to 50% per session, and you still get quality care. Therapy is a good tool everyone can use. Whether you've experienced a major trauma or not, it can teach you valuable skills you can use in your everyday life, like how to better manage all that stress tax season brings, or how to communicate better with your partner, or even how to be more mindful. Use BetterHelp to work towards your goals at a reasonable cost. It's also more convenient since everything is online. It's easier to work in a therapy session no matter how hectic your schedule gets. And as one of the largest online therapy platforms, BetterHelp has access to thousands of therapists with all sorts of specialties, so you can find the right fit for you. Your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/JRE to get 10% off your first month.
That's no fucking shit.
HELP.com/JRE. Well, that green room's great for that. Mm-hmm. A lot of this, because everybody knows that everybody loves everybody, so everybody can just talk openly about anything. You know? Like, and if you have like some dumb argument with someone will come in and go, yeah, I think he's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you gotta go, oh,
yeah.
Really? What? Okay, let me think about it. You need that in your life.
I'm going
you
to
don't
fucking
want to be a
North Canton
tyrant.
after this. Fuck
And
this.
that's what happens to a lot of successful
Tired of
people,
this
is they
fucking
get
horse
real
shit.
Insecure, and so they become kind of a tyrant, and they don't want to listen to anybody else. You know, you see that with people that are like on shows and they run the show. The show's all
Ain't
about
making
that.
any fucking money. Every time I
Show.
turn around, there's
And
someone
they're,
with a
you know,
goddamn
they're the
orange
producer
coat in my
and the
fucking
executive
way.
Producer and the cast all kisses their ass, and they're at the top of the fucking casting call or whatever it is, the call sheet. Yeah, it's a bad place to be. You don't want to be there. But don't do it. Don't do it. You got to resist the urge.
So I went back to my ayahuasca place down in Costa Rica. So I went 4 years ago, right? And that's when I quit drinking.
Right.
Which you know I did, right?
Yeah.
You know I quit drinking.
I quit too.
When?
A month ago.
I knew that you weren't drinking.
Yeah,
but I didn't know.
Stop drinking.
I didn't know that it was a.
Yeah, I think I'm done. Yeah. For no reason other than it's not good for you.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have to. I enjoyed it.
Right. No, you were having a good time. I was watching.
But the days after drinking were just too rough. And I'm like, what kind of a moron who takes so good care of his body is poisoning himself a couple of days a week for fun? You know, why am I doing that? And then I'm like, well, will I have the same amount of fun if I don't poison myself? Turns out, yes.
Exactly. Right. Well, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I mean, you haven't quit everything, right?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah. And I'm just skinning the cat a different way.
Tell me about your cat. Well, I'm going to play some Eco Rose. Did they play those while you went through the... There we go. Jamie's got it ready.
So what's that?
This is the songs that a lot of the shaman like to play while you're tripping balls.
Oh, okay.
And if they play this song while you're under the influence, the hallucination will dance to the songs.
Oh, wow.
There's certain songs you're like, I don't get it. Like the Grateful Dead. I've never been on acid at a Dead concert. But they say, if you are, you get it. So, like, I'm missing that part.
Right.
You know? So to me, it's like, it's just this jam music, which is fine, but I'd rather listen to Skynyrd. You know what I mean?
I saw Skynyrd Monday, or Sunday night. And it was...
Before the plane crash.
More
I'm
fucking orange
These
barrels.
guys are putting a show together.
I'm sure.
Ricky Medlock playing Alan Collins's play. They have two other guitar players, but it is a band. I mean, they are nailing this shit. I had tears coming out of my eyes during fucking Freebird for a lot of reasons. Number one, I saw him in '73. Me and Steve Cook, who was my best friend till the day he died, and Ronnie Van Zant was lighting joints, and he was handing them out into the crowd. Well, me and Steve had worked our way up to the front. He handed one of them to me, and everybody else was taking a hit. I just stuck it in my pocket, and went in the bathroom and smoked it because it was illegal then. And I was listening to Skynyrd. Well, Sunday night, I'm at the Skynyrd show. There's cops where I was. There was outhouses right next to it where you go through this fence. And I told my girlfriend, I'll be right back. And I was over there. I was in the outhouse smoking a joint, listening to the Skynyrd. I'm like, well, I haven't changed much in 50 fucking years. You know, the exact same thing. So
some songs, people
I'm gonna end it. Get the fucking North Canton. I'm tired of this fucking horse
shit. I never
shit.
get tired of Freebird.
But
that
there's
guitar solo.
Yeah. And they just
motherfuckers
hammered it home. I mean, it was so good.
Oh, nice.
That it was just, I couldn't believe it. You know, I brought him on stage at the Greek one time, maybe 20 years ago or 15 years ago, I don't know. And it was fun because I got to say, when I was 16 years old, we were at the Skynyrd show, and we had taken enough mushrooms to kill an average teenager, but we weren't average teenagers. And ladies and gentlemen, Leonard Skynyrd. It was great fun.
That's cool.
And so it kind of brought back all those memories, you know, and then watching him play it again. It's kind of, it's weird because, especially when I come back from Rhythmia, which is my place out there, that I always come back emotional. Right. And kind of full of love and forgiveness and those kinds of things. That's kind of what I learned from those hallucinogens.
Yeah.
And,
isn't it crazy that that's illegal?
Yeah, to feel good.
You got to go to another country to be a better person.
Yeah.
You got to go to another country that's much more lawless and take in the divine and come back a better person.
It's you know, maybe there is.
If you're not open to it, you'll get hit on.
Well, and that's why it's not for everybody, because I've seen people wig down there, and which is why I know you can get ayahuasca locally and they have people that are, I don't know where they got their shaman title from, but you can do it here. Yeah. But I know that there, it's a licensed medical facility with doctors. It's the only one in the world that's a licensed medical facility. And and they're prepared when people wig. They know what to do.
They know to hold you down.
Yeah, and they do too. They'll fucking bind you up and wait till it to clear, because they know that you're at a point in this that you're going through some heavy shit. One of them was an NFL player last time I was there, and this guy was fucking huge. He plays for Buffalo, and I was like, God, if you had to pick somebody to wig, you would say, please don't let it be that fucking dude.
Did he wig?
He wigged.
Oh no!
He wigged big time.
Oh no!
And started just screaming, "Get the fuck away from me!"
Oh no!
And which will, that kind of, you got 70 people in this room that are tripping, and so.
Oh no! What a bummer!
And it was, but they got big guys too.
Oh, there you go.
And so they just got him out of the room, got him calmed down, and he didn't leave. He was going through some shit. The first time I went there, this girl from Japan started kicking and screaming, and they took her outside and they had to fucking subdue her. But at the end of the day, the person with the biggest smile on their face was her. Because she worked through some shit that I can't even talk about, that I happen to know what it was, but it ain't worth knowing. But she found pure flipping out than me, because the people that worked there weren't flipping out at all, because they've seen it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing they haven't seen. There's been 18,000 people through that facility, and so they've seen it all.
Right.
And but they just know how to handle it. Well, I wonder if you're just in some mansion in Beverly Hills or whatever, if there's somebody there that knows how to handle it.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. Especially if you don't know what you're going to get hit with.
Yeah, and you need to be in a really safe place where people know how to guide you through it.
Yeah.
You don't. It's not something I think you want to grab a handful of and go sit in a fucking closet, and try to figure it out for yourself. So
that's the real weirdness of any kind of psychedelic journey, is that you're probably gonna be going through some shit, and someone could either manipulate you during that time or help you during that time.
Right.
And there are people that will manipulate you.
Absolutely, and that's why. That's why I go to this place that's not that easy to go to, but just because it's so safe.
Mm-hmm.
It's set up perfectly for what they're trying to do, and it was this guy's dream to do that, to make it accessible to regular people. So back then, when he opened up, you had to go to a corrugated tin shack in Peru or wherever to get this stuff, and he said, I want to make a place that's safe to go and people feel comfortable, and so
isn't it kind of crazy that that's illegal? I mean, it's kind of the weirdest thing
for basically wounded warriors that are going through heavy PTSD. There's an organization that's sending guys to Rhythmia, and I got to talk to him a lot while he was there, and he was a psychologist, but he was fucked up, but I kind of got to watch his transformation a little bit, watch this guy coming around, and I'd seen that, and I'd seen the transformation in myself, where I could just not be so angry, and not hold all this hate, that takes so much energy to fucking control, and to have them really show me a way to let all that stuff go, and to be a happier person, and it's hard to, you know, but
I don't think anybody really understands it.
Yeah, right. And I know there's some stuff that's stronger than that, but I don't know what it's called. What
Ibogaine, you mean?
is that? What it is?
Ibogaine is the one that people use for addiction. There's a place called Beyond that's in Mexico that does that. Rick Perry was telling us about that. A lot of former Governor Rick Perry is all part of that. He really wants to bring Ibogaine to Texas and have treatment
We can't
centers.
even gambling here.
I think they can get Ibogaine. I think especially with a Republican like Rick Perry, who's really concerned about the mental health of veterans, because I think that's where it really shines. Ibogaine in particular helps a lot of people. Gives you like a review of your life. Apparently, I've never experienced it, but the people that have very positive things to say about it, and it's incredibly good at helping people get over addictions. It has a very high success rate. For one treatment, I think it's in the 80%, and then if you do 2 treatments, it's in the mid-90s.
That's fucking amazing.
Yeah, people that never go back to the drugs, never go back to whatever it is, gambling, whatever you have, whatever's wrong with you.
All you got to do is figure out what's wrong with you.
Yeah, you got to figure out why you're doing that. Like, what is this pathway that I keep going down that's sabotaging my whole life, and why can I not resist it? Why do I keep reaching for the bottle? What is it? Why do I keep snorting coke? What is it? What is it?
Well, that was the question I had with myself. It's because I drank like a fool for years.
And
it was funny because whenever I was single again, and I was in the green room, and I said, maybe I'll start drinking again. And everybody at one time went, no.
No,
that's not, I was just kidding. I was just kidding.
Well, you quit like that, though. You did, like, you were gone.
I did, and but I went to rid me with intention. I wanted to know why I was doing this to myself and why I could not see a way to quit. And it was so tied up in my persona, my stage presence, who I really was at the time. And I'm like, why is this all tied to me? And why can't I shake it? And so with that, I also went through hypnosis because I had to get sober before I went to, because that's not what their deal is. They're not a treatment facility. It could be a byproduct of it, but they're like, yeah, we're not gonna, we don't have detox here, so you have to quit some other way. And once you've been sober for a month, you can come down here, which is exactly what I did. I came up with a way to do that through hypnosis, which I thought was pretty effective. But I got sober once before in one of those rehabs in Malibu for $90,000, and which was, at the time, I was spiraling. You know, I was living in a 5-star hotel in Beverly Hills. I was doing a bunch of blow. I was screwing expensive hookers, which was exactly my life plan. You know, I'm like, okay, here it is. This is, and it ended up feeling pretty hollow. You know, and I ended up going there. And I stayed sober for about maybe 6 months or something like that. But it was white knuckle the whole fucking time of, you know, no fun. But when I did it the way I did it, when I checked into that facility, I got the night sweats so bad when I quit that they had 2 beds in the new people's things, and I would soak the sheets in one up to drink again. And you know, and I own number 1 tequila still, and it's there at the green room every night. And it doesn't even bother me a bit.
That's interesting.
And
so that's what the big fear a lot of people have is, how will I still be around bars?
Right. And you know, and yeah, is it a little awkward at first? Yes. And do I hang out in bars all the time other than our club? No, I don't. I mean, I'll go listen to music if there's something, but just to go to a bar and hang out, I just don't do it.
Right.
And for whatever reason.
Well, it's not that much fun being around drunks on your show.
No, it's really not.
You got to be in the vibe of the drunks to appreciate drunk talk.
Yeah. When
you're sober and someone's drunk and they're telling you some fucking story about their boss being a douchebag, it's like, whoa.
Right. So, and I also have a natural tendency to just kind of isolate anyway, you know, and so I really that's one of the things I love about the club is it gets me out of the house. It gets me to go down there where my friends are and do what I do for a living, and what I do for a living and what I do for fun, both.
I think a lot of people have that problem, that isolation problem, you know?
Yeah, because I think that that people like you and I think a lot gets dumped on us, you know, because of all the friends that I know that I've known for a long while, I'm the only one that's been very successful. Not out of my comic friends, but out of my regular friends, and it seems like I have to take in a lot of stuff, and I never knew how to get rid of it. So I would just get to the point where I was full and I couldn't take anymore, and that's when I would isolate myself.
Right. Too many people want something.
Too many people want something. That's why I gravitate towards you, is because I know you don't want jack shit from me except for me to be your buddy. And let us be brothers in comedy and whatever. So and life. And so, you know, so that's really good for me. Even today, you know, that's what gets me out of the house sometimes, you know.
Oh, me too. And I mean, I love being home. I love being home with my family, hanging out. But my comedy family, I love being around too. And that's what I feel like. I feel like especially when comics are in town that I don't get to see that often.
No, it's cool as shit.
Oh, we all hang out together. It's beautiful.
Who were those two actors that were at the club the other day? It was so much fun to have them in there. It was
which night?
Fuck, I don't know. We get a lot of visitors.
When Woody was there?
No.
Will Arnett, right?
Yeah, Bradley Cooper, and it was fun to have him in the green room because, you know, we all we're all around each other all the time. So it was fun to have new people in there with stories we've never heard.
Oh,
you know?
I wasn't there for that one.
Yeah, it was cool as shit. You know, just to have them hanging out. You know, good guys. You know.
Yeah. Woody was there. You weren't here when Woody was there?
No.
Oh my God, he was so much fun. He's so fun.
Did he do your show?
No, he did my show. But then that was nights before that, and he just wanted to come to the club. He's been to the club a couple of times now.
Harrelson?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's just been hanging out.
Fuck, I always wanted to meet that guy.
Oh, he's so nice. We just all hung out in the green room, and he was just like one of the boys. It was so easy.
How fucking cool is that?
So cool. So he's so easy to talk to. So and talks to everybody the same way. He's like so easy. He's just a genuine dude. He don't even have a phone. You can't even get a hold of him.
Really?
Yeah, he don't have a phone. Doesn't have email. Doesn't do email. Fuck you.
Oh shit.
Yeah, he's like got an assistant that handles everything. Yeah, it's just probably a freeing thing. You know, just stop. Just stop. Leave me alone.
Right.
You know.
Well, I don't answer emails anyway.
But it's also like, let me think about what I think about things instead of being inundated by all these other people's thoughts constantly all day long, which is valuable. It's good to get other people's perspectives on things. I think it enriches you, but at a certain point in time, you become captive to it. And I think there's just too many people that are captive to other people's thoughts.
I think so too. That's why I'm so close-minded. And I really am. I'm truly closed-minded, and I think you're open-minded. And
I try to be.
And I struggle with that because just letting people pour information into my head, you know, I just tend to avoid it. I am engaged, you know, in that I do follow things closely, and not the stock market, but everything else. Yeah, that's been a little
don't follow the stock market right now. It's so baffling. It's so crazy. Like, what is going on? The whole world's mad at us. Trump's playing golf, and in between swings, he's on the phone with presidents of countries. We're gonna need more money.
Yeah, that's what somebody told me the other day. Like, is he playing checkers? Is he playing chess? He's playing golf.
He's playing golf. Like, what does that mean? Everybody wants to think there's some like grand plan to it. Well, they think the grand plan is, look, you know, we remember back when the 92 elections when Ross Perot was in?
Mm-hmm.
So when Ross Perot laid out what happened, you remember during that debate where Ross Perot laid out what happened with the tariffs? So that like when we try to sell stuff over there, we get a high tariff. It's like a 35% tariff, but they don't get tariffs when it comes over here. It's not the same. It's not like, you guys, there's a tax on everybody if you want to sell your goods to encourage people to buy American products. If you want to sell your products in America, we get a tax. That tax goes to the fucking grid or whatever the hell they're fixing with it.
Right.
Ross Perot was laying it out. Like, this is how all the jobs went to Mexico. Because, have you ever seen that, Jamie? It's see if you can find it. It's a great speech because Ross.
When he talked about the giant sucking sound.
Yes, you actually mentioned that earlier in the podcast.
That's what I was talking about.
Yes, that's it. That's funny. Did you just see that recently or something?
No, I just remember it.
Oh boy, the giant.
He would have been a great president.
I voted for him.
He had big ears.
By the way, they changed the whole way debates work after this because it used to be if you got 5% of the vote in the primary, that you could be a part of the presidential debates. And that's not the case anymore. Or it was 5% in a poll. I forget what the number was that you had to reach, but it wasn't a high threshold. And then you could be a part of the debate. And they changed the shit out of that after this because Ross Perot tanked it. They thought HW was going to go for a second term.
Right.
And meanwhile, Ross Perot fucked it up because a lot of people that would have voted for Bush voted for Ross, and the people that were already going to vote for Clinton voted for Clinton. Right. But play this, Jim.
There it is, right there.
That's it.
Jesus Christ,
He was
what
right.
a fucking smart man.
He was right, and that's exactly what happened. American manufacturing collapsed. Yeah, and they did it all for money, and they did it all because they were greedy. They were already rich.
Right.
And if we could have just gotten those motherfuckers from ayahuasca,
Jesus Christ, they'd have smoothed the fuck out, man.
they would have said, "Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's be nice.
Let's make America great again."
I don't understand the trade war with Canada, because have you ever met a Canadian that had $35 in his pocket? No. They're all broke. They have $22. That's
Really?
And they'll buy you a beer. You know, I love
They're all
Canadians.
broke?
I've always, they're broke. They don't have any money up there.
How come they don't have any money?
Because it's socialism. You know, I think it's a great place. Don't you love Canada?
I love it. Well, they have socialized medicine, but it's a capitalist society.
It is, but socialized medicine, and it's expensive. So
what percentage of the Canadians pay in taxes?
I don't know.
Let's find that out. What's the Canadian tax rate? I know it's higher than Americans.
I know, mine's a bitch.
And when you go over there, you have to pay taxes too. Like if you do a gig.
Yeah, you have to pay taxes.
Yeah, you pay Canadian taxes.
And you get paid in Canadian dollars. I'm not going up there much for shows.
Yeah.
But, you know.
So here it is. Canada's top federal income tax rate is 33%, while the U.S. is 37%.
Right.
However, when combining federal, provincial, state taxes, Canadians often face higher marginal rates across various income levels. That's interesting, that theirs is only 33%, ours is 37%. I thought ours was lower than theirs.
I thought ours was 40.
Well, it is when you get to a certain tax bracket, correct? Isn't it? Ours changes when you get higher, right?
Yeah,
33% on the portion over $246,000. What's ours in terms of like the highest tax bracket? What's the highest U.S. Is it 37? That's what it is? What's really crazy to me is when people say the rich should pay more taxes. Okay, fine. But where do you think that's going? Where's it going? Where's the money going? Is the money going to the federal government? Do you think they're good at it? Do you think they're good at managing your money? Have you paid attention to all the shit Elon's fucking uncovered? 37% is when you make over $609,000 a year. That's you, motherfucker.
Well, that's me last month.
This is the thing. It's like, I'm happy shit and a bunch of things that you don't have any say in. If you could like opt out of it, if you could like, imagine if you like pick what you know, if you had like a whole tax sheet, would you like your money to go to? Would you like your money to go to overthrowing governments? No. Like, what if the federal government's budget was entirely based on the will of the people? Like, you get to choose. Like, how much of your money you want to put into drone strikes in Yemen? I says, I don't want zero of my money going to that. You know, how much money do you want to go to this or that or clean water? Okay, clean water sounds good. You know, how much infrastructure? Fuck yeah, fix the streets.
Well, I'm kind of, I agree with you, and I've just heard you say this, that, you know, that everybody should have access to health care and education.
100%.
And
the whole country.
The whole country, everybody, that would rise us all up.
100%. Less losers.
Yeah.
That's how you make America great. Less losers. Less people that are saddled down with a lifetime of debt because they broke their leg. That's crazy.
Yeah, all my sons' friends are all saddled with $90,000 worth of fucking student loan debt, and
subsidized.
And my son was lucky enough that I had enough money to pay for his, you know, and so he doesn't have that burden. But God damn it, nobody should have that burden for an education.
It's just a for-profit institution that roped you into thinking that was necessary. That you have to be. And by the way, you can get as good an education right now online as is available anywhere on earth.
If you have the discipline.
If you have the discipline.
Right.
Yeah. That's what's so wild. That's what's so fascinating about this time, is that it is basically obsolete, and yet people are still paying $70,000 a year for it and more. Like, what does Harvard cost? How much is what's Harvard's yearly tuition, Jamie? What do you guess? I was like, at least 50. 60.
Yeah, at least 50.
Imagine if you're a middle class guy and you got 2 kids and they do real good and they don't have scholarships and you got to pay for them.
I can't imagine. I mean, I don't see how people do it. I mean, I really don't.
Barely do it. Oh boy, the total cost of attendance, including fees, housing, and food, reaching around $82,000. Undergraduate tuition is $56,550 for a year. That's a lot of money, man.
Oof, that's 1 year.
Oof.
And if you drop out after 1 year, then you have nothing and you're down 80 grand.
But if you make it through those 4 years, now you're 200 grand in the hole that you owe. And then you have to get a job, and then you get a job that pays 50. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
How do we wash this off? Right.
I'll never pay this off.
And then you have to throw a couple of kids on top of that. And
you know something wild? There's people out there, their Social Security is getting docked because they owe student loans. So they take money out of your Social Security to pay for your student loans, because the student loans is the one thing you can never escape.
You can't bankrupt it.
Which is so crazy.
It's cruel.
It doesn't make any sense. You're saddling an 18-year-old with the burden of a lifetime. Harvard will offer free tuition for families earning $200,000 or less a year. Oh, that's great.
To who?
That's a new thing.
Offering it to who? You can't even get into Harvard.
Right, but it's still good. Will be free for students and families earning $200,000 or less a year. College announced Monday. Harvard has long sought to open our doors to the most talented students no matter their financial circumstances. That's great.
Yeah, it is.
That's great. I just don't know if it's necessary. I think it's probably necessary for kids to go to school just to, like, a rite of passage, you know? Like, I think ceremonies and rites of passages are missing in our society.
Yeah.
And especially, I can speak for young men. They don't know when they're a man. Like, am I a man yet? Am I a man? Like, there's some men that, you know, in their 30s, their dad's still yelling at them. You know what I mean? It's like, when am I a man? When am I an equal? When am I, you know, we don't have a ceremony. You know, in other tribal societies and all throughout history, people have had rituals, rites of passage rituals, where people feel like, okay, we fucking made it, you know? Like, you have a black belt ceremony. You got your black belt. All right.
Right.
I made it. You know, I'm in. But You know, so I think there's a benefit in that society. But then you gotta like unlearn all this shit your fucking crazy professors are telling you.
Did you go to college?
Yes. I went to UMass Boston.
Oh wow, that's a good school.
Yeah, right. Easy to get into. I only went because I didn't want people thinking I was a loser. That's the only reason why I went. I just wasted my time there. I went for 3 years. Just wasting my time taking class so I could tell people I was going to college.
Oh, I didn't waste any time. I got kicked out of high school in the 10th grade, so you know, my mind is an open book there. A lot of the pages aren't filled in. And you know what? And I always kind of, I regret that a little bit, you know, that I didn't go to college, that I didn't...
What do you regret about it?
Well, just, you know, number one, I think I'd be smarter. But I don't know what it is, and I've made it just fine with what I've had, you know, and you know, I've got attention deficit disorder and all these things. It really kept me from doing traditional schoolwork very well.
I'm not even sure that's real.
Attention deficit disorder?
Yeah, I don't think it's real.
You don't?
No.
Let me change your mind.
I think there's a lot of people that aren't interested in a lot of things, but when they're interested in, when they say attention deficit disorder, why are those guys so good at video games? Like, why are they so good at things that aren't school? I think it's just I think we could categorize it into a bunch of different like disorders and problems, but I think a lot of that is a way to get you hooked on some sort of pharmaceutical drug that's going to fix whatever problem you have that doesn't allow you to sit in class and listen to some boring shit for fucking 6 hours.
Right.
You got no problem writing jokes, Ron White.
No.
You got no problem performing. Like it's not like there's not a thing that you can't excel at. That you can pay attention when you're on stage.
I don't know about that. I think stand-up comedy was the answer to every problem I had.
No,
because that's what I was good at.
You're a comic. You are a comic. Like that's what you're supposed to do.
But let me give you an example.
But that's my point. Is that there's a lot of different like functions in society. There's a lot of different roles in society.
I think they probably tag ADD to people that don't have it. But I know that I still have it. So if let's say that I was going to put together a ceiling fan and hang it in my roof, which I'm not, I could no more do that than the man in the moon without an Adderall. If I take an Adderall, I'll read the directions, I'll put the whole thing together and hang it on, no problem. Without it,
I bet you can do it without it.
Stare at it. I've tried.
You're bored. You need excitement. You're a certain type of dude who needs a certain type of stimulation, which is why you like the high wire act of performing live. I don't think it's a disorder. I think it's a I do.
Well, I like the sound of that.
I do. I think the inability to pay attention to shit that's not interesting is not a disorder. It's just what's interesting and what's not. To this, like maybe I have it too, because to this day, when I'm talking to someone, they're saying something really boring. I want to run away.
Right? You don't hear a word that's coming out of their mouth,
and I just can't. It's like it's.
Yeah,
I just want to get out.
I'm the same way.
But that doesn't mean I have a disorder. I don't think I have a disorder, because if I'm talking to you, I got no problem at all.
Well, let's get 2 ceiling fans out here.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm not that good at putting together a ceiling fan either. I wouldn't enjoy it, but I could do it. You just follow the directions. Like, you could follow the directions. It's not hard. It's just you wouldn't enjoy it. But if there was something that you enjoy doing, like learning how to swing a golf club better, then you could pay attention.
I do pay attention to that.
That's all I'm saying. I think there's roles in this world. And different personalities fit perfectly into mathematics. Different personalities fit perfectly into philosophy. Engineering. Different personalities. It's like you just got to find out what vibes with the way you think, and we all think differently. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different biology. You just got to find what is the thing that like syncs up with the way your mind works. And the problem with traditional education is it was designed by the Rockefeller family. Like, the school system in this country was designed to create better factory workers,
right,
and soldiers, and to get them real early. That's why they want to start you at 5, because they figured out when you start people at 12 or 13, they already got their ideas of what the world is and how the world works. And I'm not fucking shooting somebody for you. You know, so what they do is they get you when you're 5, and when you're 5, they can kind of indoctrinate you, separate you from your parents most of the day while your parents are at work. And so that's like most of your day, you have other people other than your parents telling you how the world is, how the world works, what's happening in your life, and what you should be doing. And that's kind of crazy, because a lot of those people suck. I remember thinking that when I was a kid. Like, thinking how strange it is that people that I don't respect and I don't enjoy are the ones that are in control of communicating to me most of the day. I remember very clearly thinking that when I was a little kid, like 10, really? 11 years old. Yeah.
You know, I know that when I was a kid, I used to have this this history teacher who was also a PE coach. Now, he had something as intriguing as history to teach me, but I could not listen to him talk. So he couldn't even make American history interesting. But a good teacher could have done it.
Yes.
A good teacher could have roped me in to what was going on and the story of it and how it affects my life and the lives of my parents and my grandparents, how it all went down, you know. And that's an interesting story. But if you're a dull fucking assistant coach basketball, and now you got a fucking one period of history, and you have a monotone voice, and I'm just out of it. I imagine what it would have been like to have access to wonderful educators.
Right, but if you were listening to, like, you ever listen to Dan Carlin's podcast?
No.
He's got this podcast called Hardcore History. It's incredible. Incredible. It's amazing. It's such a good podcast. And this guy will, like, lay out the events of World War I in a way that you will hang on every word, and you'll park your car. Like, if you got to go somewhere, you'll keep your car running because you just want to listen to where this is going.
Wow.
Yeah. So if a guy like that was teaching you history,
that would have been great. I mean, I think I would have been engaged.
You probably would have been a historian.
Yeah, making nothing.
Yeah, I mean, but Dan Carlin's doing well. But that's someone who loves what they do, and that's the difference. School is this weird indoctrination fucking ritual that we all have to go through, and then we all have to feel real bad about ourselves because we don't want to be there and we're not doing good at it. I felt like a fucking complete loser in school. I never felt like I was supposed to be there. I never felt like I was smart. You know, but I remember like finally when I realized that I was never, like, when I was going to school for 3 years, when I went to college for 3 years, when I finally was like, what am I doing? I gotta stop doing this. It's just wasting time. Because that's all I was doing. It's just completely wasting time. It was like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I could just go, this is not for me.
Well, the one thing... if I was a window salesman, and I was broke, and I had nothing, and I was unimpressive, and my in-laws bought us a garage door opener, so I had a garage door opener. Now you're gonna think this is really fucking weird. I used to wear that garage door opener on my belt so people would think I had a beeper. I just hang it, clip it right there on my
people
belt.
don't know about the beeper.
yeah.
A lot of people listening right now, like,
have no idea what that is.
Ron and I have been through all the various stages of technological
wizardry.
Yeah, but the intertwining of in our lives. The way, you know, the first thing was the beeper. Like, you would get a beeper. Like, my friend Johnny had one. you could page people. You could page him, and he would call the number.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
And you stop at a phone booth. Now, that what a phone booth is.
And you have to like put quarters in the phone book and look at the beeper and hey, what's up? Hey, what's going on? Where you at? And you have a conversation with someone. That's how you get a hold of them. You have to page them.
Right.
Yeah. Joey Diaz had a pager forever. Joey Diaz had a pager deep into the maybe the 2000s.
Wow.
Not kidding. Yeah, definitely in the 90s he had a pager. Because I remember sometimes he would go AWOL, and I'd be paging him, like, where are you? Like, one time we were doing a gig in Jersey. We're doing Rascals in East Orange, and he fucking never showed up. And I finally got a hold of on the phone. He's like, I'm not going to lie to you, dog. I never left Vegas. I'm like, God damn it, Joey. I'll never forget that conversation.
I never left Vegas.
I'm not going to lie to you, dog. I never left Vegas. It was just having a good time. But that's how you got a hold of him. You'd have to page him. That was it. And then one day he got a phone. And when he got a phone, you better not fucking text him. If you text him, he'll yell at you. Like Brian Redband used to text him. He goes, don't stop fucking texting me. And then Joey eventually got an iPhone, and Brian got a text from him one day. I'm like, oh, he's texting? He's like, you fucking texted me. Now we'll text you. But he doesn't like to text. He
How's he doing?
Call. He's good.
Yeah.
He's coming down soon. He's going to be here in a couple weeks.
Good.
He's coming real soon, right? When is he here? 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. He only wants to talk to you on the phone. I go, why? Why don't you like talking to people? He goes, I'm insecure. I want to hear your voice. I want to tell you I love you.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I get it. He's old school.
Yeah, he calls me every once in a while just to say hello.
Just to say hi.
Yeah, just to say hi.
Yeah, he's like
just checking on you. Yeah.
He might be the number one dude that I just talk to mostly on the phone. Very few text messages between me and Joey. Other than I'll ask him, like, hey, is April 22nd good? Yeah, we're good. Okay. See you then.
So is he just come down to do sets?
He's coming down to do sets. He's getting ready. He's going to do a special. So he's doing a bunch of shows. He's got a residency. I think he's doing it in Philly. Is he doing it in Philly? We'll find out when he gets here. But he's doing a residency. He's done a few of these residencies where he shows up like every weekend. He has shows, places. People love him. He opened up for Tom in Madison Square Garden. Tom said when he went on stage, they went fucking ape shit.
Oh, how cool is that?
They went ape shit because they didn't know he was coming, you know? And then all of a sudden, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joey Diaz. He's like the Snuffleupagus. He's a mystical creature.
Right, he is. He is. There's nothing like him. Nothing like him.
Completely unique human being, you know?
It was fun to watch him just stomp the fuck out of the fucking room at the store, man. He just beat the shit out of those crowds.
Beat the shit out of those crowds. Some of the sets that I've seen him have in the OR were, I think it's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen everybody. I've seen everyone. Great comedians who I love to death. And I'll watch them every time they perform. But I think Joey hit RPMs that nobody hit. Like he hit these moments.
Oh, I saw him wind them up, man. Just wind them up.
And so when people say, like, who's the funniest guy ever? I'm like, God, man, I don't... You know, there's guys with great insight, like Patrice. Like when Terry Crews accused some guy of grabbing his dick, you know, and he had this bit about Terry Crews in the underwear commercial. Oh, my God. It was so funny. You'd be in the back of the room, just barely breathe. You couldn't breathe. Everyone, like, I was looking around, people are falling out of their chairs. Like, they couldn't handle it. And he was on fire, just purple, fucking red in the face, screaming and yelling.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Those are some of the first sets I saw you do when they were at the store, and when you were doing that bit where you were standing on top of the stool.
And Kim Kardashian bit? Yeah.
And I just remember just dick slap those fucking crowds. And I'm like, God damn, he's good at this. Fuck.
It's a fun job, bro.
It is the funnest job.
We're so lucky. We're so lucky in so many ways. It doesn't make sense.
When I think about a life without stand-up, it makes me nervous to even think about.
Well, we almost did it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when we all went through that with COVID, I mean, you were basically saying you were done.
I thought it was done.
Yeah.
I didn't like it anymore. It was I would halfway through every set. Couldn't wait for it to be over.
Wow.
and now I go on stage and I have this whole new gratitude for these crowds, that are still there, waiting, bigger than ever. My shows sell out faster than they ever have.
Isn't that amazing?
And part of it is because there's less of them, I guess. But also it's because of my friends. The word gets out. You guys didn't let me die.
Yeah, we knew. I mean, I tell everybody, but it's true. Like, you're one of the reasons why we decided to buy a club. Because you grabbed me when you got off stage that first time. You had been on stage for like 8 months, and you grabbed me by the shoulders, like, whatever the fuck we have to do, we're gonna keep doing this.
Yeah, and we did.
I'll never forget that moment. I was like, okay, we're gonna do it. You're gonna get that seriously. Because I realized, like, early on coming here, I was like, we need a place. We can't just be working out of these rock and roll clubs. They're not set up right.
No. No, there's a difference. I don't even like to do sets other places.
I don't either.
That's really what's wrong with the mothership.
No.
It'll spoil your fucking ass, with great crowds and perfect acoustics and an amazing sound system and then when you move over to another room, which I rarely do another set in town. I did one a couple of months ago, and I was like, this sucks. If you guys want to find me, I'll be down at some mothership. And
yeah, we did it, Ron.
Yeah,
we actually did it. It's interesting when you look back at those conversations we used to have. Like, we were in the Vulcan, hanging out in the green room, talking about what the club's going to be like.
Yeah,
it seemed like a pipe dream. And I know a lot of people probably did think it was fake. There's a lot of people in LA, like Tony used to talk to them all the time. Yeah, when's Joe opening that club? Club's never going to open. It's all bullshit. You guys moved down there for no fucking reason. Because the thing about you making a choice, that's a scar. Yeah. If the thing about you making a choice to go and, start something up, and the people that are left behind, they kind of want you to fail, especially the haters.
Right.
They want you to. So Tony was like encountering that all the time. It's people that just, for whatever reason, they don't want other people to. They don't want other people to escape the bomb that they're in. It's like people from the neighborhood that don't want you to leave, and when you do leave, oh, look who's back.
Right.
People, for whatever reason, people really like when people fail. It's a gross feeling. It's a gross thing, but it's super, super common. Looking for a joint?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. That's the first thing they gotta fix, is make this shit legal in the whole country. It's so crazy that...
What's stopping them?
Oh, I don't know. I don't understand it. I mean, it's a political beach ball. It's one of those things that just gets tossed around that I think is good for the establishment that runs the country. It's good to keep it up in the air. Like, I'll promise when I get in office, gays will be able to marry. Yay!
Yeah, right.
And then they're talking about, there's people that want to take that off the table, It's like there's a bunch of those things, like Roe v. Wade, that was a big one. There's a bunch of these cultural beach balls that are very important issues to some people. And they get exploited by politicians as a way to promise you this and promise you that, but nothing ever gets fixed. Nothing ever changes.
Right. Well, it's changing a little, I didn't think marijuana would ever be legal in Oklahoma. I thought they'd be behind us, but boy, you go there now, it's billboards on every fucking street corner. Come get your weed,
New Mexico just authorized psilocybin therapy.
Really?
Yep. For people with depression. I think depression and anxiety. Is that what it's for? Is that what they're using it? Those terms, which apply to basically everybody?
Right, everybody.
Everybody's had some depression and some anxiety. There you go. Now you can get some mushrooms and figure your life out.
Oh, maybe I'll give it a try.
Yeah. It's just the problem is federally, it's still not legal. And it's so dumb. It's so dumb. And I don't think it's going to change, unfortunately. I think Trump is too busy with all these other issues. I don't think he's interested in that. So, co-sponsor said, here it goes. The bill would establish an advisory board, treatment equity fund, and research fund, as well as remove psilocybin from the Controlled Substances Act to protect qualified and registered patients, clinicians, and producers, according to a news release released jointly by the Office of the Senate and the House Democrats. So this is what the Democrats have over the Republicans: freedom to explore your consciousness. Republicans, for whatever reason, they shy away from that. It doesn't fit with their conservative mindset of what you should. And it used to be it didn't fit. The freedom of speech didn't fit with their mindset, and now the Republicans are all about freedom of speech because they realize the consequences of it during the last election cycle. You know. When things get censored and when you have a town square that's curated by not just the big tech companies but also by the federal government itself, things can get weird when you're trying to access the truth. You want to know what is actually going on. When certain stories have actually been suppressed for the news because the federal government deems them misinformation, even if they turn out to be true, that's not good. And so because of that, the right is supporting freedom of speech, which I think is fucking great. That's great. That's what we all should be supporting. But we all should be supporting the freedom to expand your consciousness. And people have been doing it in certain ways for thousands and thousands of years. And you don't know better if you haven't done it. If you haven't done it yourself and you're passing judgment on people that have, you're not qualified. If you want to go, do a psilocybin session, like a heavy, it would preclude you from doing the things that you're doing. Know this, okay? If you are a fucking rampant capitalist and all you give a fuck about is your hedge fund, and all you give a fuck about is the stock market and numbers and buying this exclusive that and that exclusive this and getting tickets to this exclusive thing, and all you're about is like status and numbers, it will fuck that up. It will fuck that whole thing sideways. You won't be able to take any of that seriously anymore. But that's good. It's good for you. You're not supposed to be taking that seriously. If you got $500 million and you're still scrambling to try to make more money, like, pause. You're 67 years old. You're gonna die if you're lucky in 30 years. If you're so lucky to hit 97, 30 years happens so quick, man. We've been here for 5, Ron.
I know.
We've been here for, you were here for 6.
Yeah.
You were here, you were patient 0. I always say you were patient 0 in the Austin invasion. Because I remember calling you, it was in 2018 when you moved here?
17, I think.
17. I remember calling you, going, what are you doing down there? Like, we miss you at the store. Oh, I fucking love it down here, middle of the country. If I want to fly anywhere real quick. People are nice, food's great. I was like, fuck, and I live in Texas. You were here, and then I had some friends in LA that were also real sketched out by all of it. They all wound up moving somewhere else. A couple of them moved, 2 families that I was real good friends with, they moved to Dallas. And then another good family friend moved to Vegas. And then another one just decided to stay. And we all came out here together, some groups of friends. And when we were living around Austin, I was like, fuck, Ron White lives here, I could live here. That was like one of the first things I thought. I thought, if Ron lives here, at least I have Ron.
Yeah, I got a friend.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I can't do stand-up right now anyway. Simpson came out real early, and I didn't really know Brian well at all until Tom introduced me to him. Tom was like, dude, you gotta meet this guy, he's so funny.
He is too,
He's
man.
so funny.
Brian's
so he was here
funny.
early too, and then Hassan and Derek both moved out here early. I'm like, oh shit, we got something going on. And then Tim Dillon bought a house out here. I was like, oh my goodness, what is happening? This is crazy. And then Duncan was like, man, fucking North Carolina, I don't know. I'm like, come to Texas, motherfucker. And then all of a sudden Duncan's out here. I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. I'm like, all right, we're up and running. And by the time we decided to make that club, fuck, we had like 10 great guys living here.
Yeah.
12, and more were coming. And there's different guys from the store.
You spend a week here, you'll go, this is doable.
We all were so excited because it felt like we were doing something different.
Yeah.
It felt like we were doing something different. I've always had this fuck it part of me. I was like, fuck it, let's go. That's
you
me.
Do.
I
you
love
do.
doing that.
You do. You're impetuous as fuck.
Ooh, I like it.
From the time you told me you were I'm gonna move there, you had a house like 2 days later. I'm like, God damn, this guy moves when he moves.
Yeah, my kids helped a lot because they really wanted to move.
That sweet ass place on the lake. That's good. That's good living over there.
It's also like when we came here, no one had masks on, and everybody was acting normal.
Yeah.
And so my kids were like, "What's going on? Like, how come everyone's normal here? We should live here," you know. And then it just happened. And then all of a sudden, the stores closed. But money is fun coupons.
Yeah, fun tickets. That's right.
That's what it's supposed to be.
If
you're not having fun and you have money, you're doing something wrong. Because you should be trying to have fun, and sometimes some things you have to pay for in order to have fun. A lot of fun is free, but there's a lot of fun where you go like, oh, we got to buy a building. We have to hire an architect. We have to pay a construction crew. We have to, we have to do a lot of things, but that's the way to do it. That's what you're supposed to do. And I was the person who was able to do it because the universe had decided that this thing wanted to get made, and we hit every green light. And then I was like, okay, well, clearly this is the thing I'm supposed to do. I know it sounds crazy, but let's go, But the whole thing was crazy. Like, it was in the middle of the biggest deal I'd ever done, ever, in my whole life. Spotify, this crazy thing. I was like, the show was already like the number one show.
What does that feel like?
It was nuts.
Sign that fucking deal. And
Bananas. But I was also like, okay, well, what should, you have to figure out what you're going to do. Like, you have to be, you can't be at the whim of all these other people's ideas and expectations. Like, what do you want to do? It's like, I want to get the fuck out of LA. So let's do it. So I moved in the middle of everything. So this is giant deal I have, and all of a sudden they're like, where are you going?
Yeah, I bet they were.
Like, I'm going to Texas. They're like, don't go to Texas. This is crazy. Like, are you sure you won't be able to get gas? I'm like, look, I'm flying guests in 3 times a week anyway.
Right.
I was already flying people in from New Mexico and New York.
And New York's closer than, it's a great spot, really.
Right. It's not like a 6-hour flight. That 6-hour flight across the whole country is a pain in the ass. The people were worn out by the time they got there, so they had to have a night to rest and relax and rehydrate, and then the next day maybe still they're probably not 100%. This is like 3 hours. 3-hour flight ain't shit. It's a 3-hour flight everywhere.
Yeah. It's easy. It's a great spot.
Yeah, but it's also like, I feel like sometimes the universe calls you in a way and tells you, just like gives you a feeling. Like, and I think ideas are like a life form. I really do. I think it's like an unexplored life form. I think that's why the concept of the muse is so enticing to people, because there's something. Like, when you decide you're just going to sit there and write, and you just it doesn't always come. Like, sometimes you get nothing, but sometimes, because you sat there, you'll have some of the best lines you've ever written. Because I think they're like life forms that you have to call into your life. And I think sometimes these life forms, these ideas, they just exist in the ether. And by circumstance, they like kind of gel together and become more valid and more alive, and then they enter into your mind. And if you're ready to receive these ideas, you have to act on them, especially if they're positive. I'm not saying go fucking blow up the Capitol building because you have an idea. I mean, positive ideas, not vengeful. Like, if you have a good soul, if your goal in life is a positive thing, these ideas will come to you, and you're supposed to, if you can, you're supposed to act on them. And I felt like, wow, what a unique opportunity I have to be able to do this. I shouldn't be scared because it's daunting and it's expensive, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, you just do this. Just do what you do.
Here's one thing that I believe. I believe that things disguise themselves, and we call them coincidences, but there really are no coincidences. And if you'll look for things that look like coincidences, you can follow that line and go somewhere with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what happened whenever, with the mass exodus and people started coming to comedy. It's to make this the best comedy scene in the world.
Yeah.
Those things fell into place because that's what was supposed to happen. And I think it all happened because of me. In that, I needed it the worst. I needed this more than anybody else did. And I feel like I was able to cash in all my fucking karma or whatever and draw it all into me a little bit because I needed it. And so,
it makes sense. Like, it's certainly a huge factor, right? Because if you didn't inspire me to even think about Austin, I wouldn't have. And I wouldn't have moved here if you weren't here, I don't think. Maybe I would have, but it helped a lot that you were here. I was like, this makes it so much easier that I know Ron's here. Because it was weird times then, man. Everything was, even going to a restaurant, you felt like you were a rebel. Like, it felt weird. It felt weird to not be scared. Like you wanted to hide the fact that you weren't scared, that you wanted to just go out. It was a strange time that I think even now we look back on and we can't. Like, I watched a UFC fight the other day, an older fight, and all the cornermen had masks on. I'm like, this is the craziest thing.
That's a big time stamp right there. It's bizarre.
It was a fight that took place in an arena in Florida with no crowd. No crowd. It was Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson. It was one of the first fights we did back. It was like...
And you were there?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I was watching the fight the other day, and I was looking at the cornermen. They all had masks on. I was like, what a weird fucking time. I remember, like, people would get upset if I didn't wear a mask backstage. I'm like, what do we do? Exposed metabolic health problems. Like,
I'll admit that. I mean, he was a raging alcoholic, and he knew it, and I knew he was really considering making some changes in his life, that he was talking to me about, and then boom, gone. So
in that sense, yes, it was.
Yes.
But it wasn't in the sense where all these healthy people who have been tested are wearing...
No, that's ridiculous.
Especially the athletes and the fighters. Like, what we would have to do is if one of the cornermen got COVID, even if the fighter didn't have COVID, the fighter was pulled from the card. So one of the cornermen tests positive for COVID because the fighter had been around him, even if he's negative. We treated it different than we treated anything ever. And especially for the fighters, it was not going to have an effect on them unless they did. There's one guy it did have an effect on. He got COVID really, really bad. But it's because they kept training. These guys kept training while they had COVID. A lot of these guys, they don't give a fuck. They have the flu. Who cares? They're showing up at the gym. It's part of being an animal. It's like you'll show up sick and you'll train through but you shouldn't do that. You're just breaking your immune system down further, and especially if you're in camp. So being in camp for a fighter is very different than regular working out. Being in camp for a fighter is you are basically redlining your body, trying to get it to recover, like trying to get it to keep pace so you can get to a superhuman level that's only achievable after like a 12-week camp, and you can only hold on to it for a couple weeks. They know when you're peaking sometimes, and they'll back a fighter off. They go, we're done today. We're done today. You're peaking too early. You don't want to overdo it. So you want to back off your training when you're feeling absolutely perfect and get yourself just slow down. We're a little too soon. Like a really good trainer knows when you're peaking, but you can't maintain it forever. It's really only that's why it's so crazy that a lot of these guys, they'll accept a fight on like 10 days notice. Like, that's nuts. Like, you need to be peaking. You need to be like, you're gonna fight in a fucking cage. And I know you're doing this as a financial decision, but that's why John absolutely destroyed. It was not even remotely competitive. It was an annihilation. It would have been an annihilation 365 days a year for decades. It wouldn't have mattered how good John Jones is and as great as Chael Sonnen is. John Jones was the bigger man. Chael had fought at 185 pounds. John was a big 205, and he was the most talented guy that ever fought in the sport. And he's going to win every time. But when they changed the opponent, they tried to make it Chael Sonnen. He's like, nope, we do things the right way. I go through a full camp. That's it. Fight's off. Everybody's like, because they want you to play ball. Get it? We need a new guy. But look, to this day, everybody says he's the GOAT. Well, why is he the GOAT? Because he did everything the right way. He knew, especially when he wasn't partying, he did everything the wrong way too. He did a lot of partying and still beat the fuck out of everybody because he was that good, because he was that talented. One of the craziest things he ever said, Daniel Cormier, when they were having a rematch, they were talking shit in the press conference, and Daniel Cormier said something to John. John goes, "I beat you when I was on coke." It is the craziest statement. Because he says it, you're like, oh shit. And it's true. It's true. That's how good John was. But if you try to change opponents, John's like, Try to call John Jones in for a late notice fight on 5 days' notice. He'll tell you, go fuck yourself. Like, nope. I'd rather hang out at home with my dog. Like, he's not doing it. Like, you gotta. So these guys, when they're peaking, they're vulnerable. They get sick a lot, especially when they're cutting weight, because you're redlining your body, and you could overdo it. And guys overdo it all the time. They overtrain. They just break themselves down. They've kept too much pace and not enough recovery, and they're declining. They show up at the gym, they have no energy. They're like, fuck. And if you get a guy to the fight that's overtrained, it's horrible to watch. I've seen it many times. The guys just can't recover. They're too tired. They overdid it. They were too tough for their own good. So one of those guys got COVID, this guy Hamzat Chimaev, and this motherfucker is a psychopath. He's a savage, like one of the most savage guys that's ever fought in the sport. And he just kept training. This motherfucker trains like 8 hours a day. He trains like a wolverine. He's an animal. He was training with COVID and he kept getting real sick. Wound up getting hospitalized, coughing up blood, gets out, goes right back to it. Same thing. Hospitalized again. He got hospitalized like twice because he wouldn't stop training. He's that psychotic. But other than him, regular athletes that get it, they just take a few days off.
Right.
Daniel Cormier had COVID, trained through it, and won the title. Won the heavyweight title. Training through COVID in his camp. He was sick during camp and kept training. And everybody was like, let's just keep going.
I didn't get off the couch the whole time I had COVID.
So just imagine those level of athletes, and we're worried about it so much that everybody has to wear a mask. Like, shut the fuck up.
Right.
This is nuts. So all that had to happen too, where we were the reckless ones. We were the ones that like, I'm not buying this. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to Texas. And there was a lot of people that were really mad. They're like, what are you doing? You're not scared. What are you doing? You're doing shows indoors. You're killing people. Blood is on your hands. There was
they were screaming at you. They were screaming at you.
Mess of people that were just all caught up in this psyop. They were just and it was great. Not good, really, but it was great in that it exposed these fragile thinkers. So many fragile minds. They couldn't see the forest for the trees. They couldn't see it. And when we all came out here and we said, we see it. Like, this is bullshit. Yeah, it'll make you sick. Yeah, you'll have to be at home for a week. Yeah, get vitamin drips. You'll be all right. Like, yeah, this is what we're dealing with, for real. And a lot of people agreed. And then it turns out we were right. At the end of the day, we were correct. We were correct to want to live our lives. We all went back to live our lives. Oh, it's not too soon. Says who? Says
right.
Who? The fucking government that's been lying to you about this disease the entire time?
To look back on it and realize that it happened. That it really fucking happened. That we were locked up, locked down.
It's not good, because it's like when you find out your friend's a bitch, and then you have to count on him again in the future. You're like, dude, don't fall apart on me here.
Right.
Show up. Like, don't get scared. I need help. Like, you find out your friend falls apart under pressure. You're like, oh, great. Why are you crying, Mike? What are we doing? Don't cry. This is crazy. Like, now you can't count on Mike, because Mike falls apart when shit gets hot. And this is how it feels feels like a good percentage of the country. You know, it was a joke for my last special, but I really feel this way. We lost a lot of people during COVID, and most of them are still alive. That lines thinking about specific friends. It's like, what did you think was going on? What did you think was going on? And so we were right. The fuck you people. Because comedians are fuck you people.
They are.
Something happens in society, like, hey man, fuck you. You know?
Or eat a steaming bowl of fuck.
Eat a steaming bowl of fuck. No matter what it is, you know? And the world needs that. I need that. I need that. I need you here. I need Tony. I need people like that, the same way that you did. It's the way we all sort of collectively manifested it together. But without you, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, so you guys come on down to Austin, Texas, and check out the mothership and see how much fun we're having if you don't believe it. If you think we're making this shit up.
Because of you, I also almost bought the cult house.
Well, yeah, right. That would have been, you know...
We would have made it happen.
People say, yeah, he did. That would have been horrible. It wouldn't have been horrible.
No, it would have been amazing.
Because it was a cool place, and it was...
it would have been amazing.
Yeah, it would have been amazing.
It would have been amazing. It's an amazing spot, and it's hilarious that a cult used to own. I feel terrible for all the people that were roped into building it, and all the people that got butt fucked.
You were doing that piece that was so funny, and you quit doing it. You didn't do that on your special.
No, I didn't.
No, that was so funny.
Yeah, it's a true story.
Remember, I gave you that line that it's okay to hypnotize people and butt fuck them because that falls under the category of I talked them into it.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing.
That's not illegal at all.
Yeah.
I talked the guy into letting me fuck him in the ass.
It's kind of technically not illegal.
With a watch going back and forth in front of his face. That's not illegal. That's not drugs.
The guy was a hypnotist and a gay porn star. Like, what a combo.
Right.
And then when they found the gay porn, like you watched the documentary, right?
Mm-hmm.
The documentary is incredible. But Ron, for the people at home, Ron had performed at this. So you had performed at that place. I fucking love that theater. You should buy that place. And then it was for sale. I was like, oh, we're in.
Right.
And then Adam Egget is the one who goes, have you seen the documentary that's on that cult? I'm like, oh no. Oh no, Ron, what have you done?
Yeah,
what have you done? I watched the documentary.
I don't think I even realized that at that time that's what that building was. I don't think I knew that it was a cult building whenever I first...
Get back to me and let me know what time and everything. But yeah, we're going out of town either late Friday night or early Saturday morning, and then
wait, where are we gonna go again Saturday?
Huh?
Where are we gonna go again?
Probably down towards Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
That castle.
So okay. Could we go in there like early in the morning so we have more time to...
Well, yeah, the castle doesn't open up till 11, so...
Okay.
Yeah, so we can either leave late Friday night or early Saturday morning.
So if ever that we're gonna go in there late Friday night, we're gonna stay at the hotel?
It's a possibility. It depends on what you want to do. We can discuss it later this week.
Okay, but for me, it's better that we're gonna go early rather than to stay at the hotel.
Okay, all right. Well, we can just leave early Saturday morning then.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I love you.
Love you. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Have you taken lunch already? No.
I've been driving. I ended up moving from South Canton to North Canton because there's construction all over the place and road closures. I haven't been able to get much done.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
See you later.
Okay.
Please.
Love you.
Love you.
It's all like this whisper of the truth that's out there in the ether, and everybody knows that it's out there. There's something there. I just have to figure out how to... And this guy, it's crazy, gay porn star, hypnotist, butt fucking all these dudes, still even this guy was able to touch these people, and they were able to access that part of their brain. And they were in. They were like, oh, we're in. I'm following this guy everywhere. This guy really is like connected to God.
Well, you know, I think that prayer, start with that, just with prayer, is a physical thing, not a spiritual thing. And that's why it works for anybody. You know, I believe it's a way to channel energy, and it changes the way you feel, but it doesn't matter what you're praying to, that it's a physical transference of energy,
right?
Not a spiritual thing. And because anybody can do it. And also hypnosis is so powerful when it's done correctly. And I know that because I've experienced hypnosis done well. And so, boy, if you have both of those things, you know, you could have power over anybody that's stupid enough to fucking lie.
Yeah, that's the problem. That was what they did during the Manson family, MK Ultra, during those days. This is part of the Chaos book by Tom O'Neill. It's about the Manson family. The Manson family murders. And one of the things that they went into is the fact that this guy who worked for the CIA at the time was part of MK Ultra. His name was Jolly West. And Jolly West is this figure all throughout the counterculture resistance movement that the federal government had sort of concocted. And part of what he was doing was teaching people how to manipulate people with LSD. And he was teaching Charlie Manson in jail. Like this guy visited Manson in jail. Then Manson would get out of jail, and Manson would get in trouble, get arrested, and then get released. And the sheriffs all say, it's over my pay grade. They were all told to let him go. And so he was implicated in murders and violent crimes, and they always let him go. They always had to let him go. And he was getting acid, and he had sophisticated methods of manipulating minds. It wasn't as simple as, like, this is a charismatic dude and they all want to cut a baby out of fucking Sharon Tate's stomach. No, it was way crazier than that. It was sophisticated. Mind control from MK Ultra, and they wanted to see if they could get people to become homicidal maniacs, and they were right. They could. They knew how to do it. They used it, and they got Manson to do it, and it threw water on this whole anti-war hippie movement. All that peace, love shit. Whoosh. Now hippies are murderers. Now hippies are Charles Manson. Now, you know, your kid wants to just like fucking paint flowers and show up at Grateful Dead shows. No, your kid's a murderer. Your kid's a fucking... all the hippies are suspects now. It worked. It was a fascinating thing they did. Like, the way they threw water on this movement that was happening, like in 1970, there's this... just threw it down and put Schedule 1 on everything. If the Nixon administration hadn't done that in 1970, who knows what the world looks like today? Like, who knows? Who knows if you can get ibogaine and ayahuasca in America, if psilocybin had stayed legal? It was made illegal in 1970. All that stuff. Yep. All that stuff became Schedule 1 in 1970. Marijuana was always illegal. It was illegal from like the 1930s. And that was because it was a textile, and that was because it was a commodity. It had almost nothing to do with the drug itself. They were trying to outlaw hemp. They were worried because they had come out with a new way to process hemp fiber.
Fuck out of here.
It's called a decorticator. They invented this thing. It was a big thing. Popular Science magazine, hemp, the new billion-dollar crop. It was like they were saying, we're all going to use hemp now because now there's an effective way to process the fibers, and they're superior to everything else. Make superior paper, superior cloth, superior everything.
Right, everything.
Much better plan. And William Randolph Hearst was like, fuck that. So William Randolph Hearst starts publishing stories in his newspapers about how blacks and Mexicans are taking this new drug called marijuana. They invented the name. It was a wild Mexican tobacco. That's what marijuana used to be. It was slang for a wild Mexican tobacco. So they put that name on cannabis, something that people had had forever. People have been smoking it forever. It was literally the origin of the term canvas.
Built from cannabis.
Yes. It's all hemp. Well, if you go like the Mona Lisa, those are all painted on hemp. The first draft of the Declaration of Independence was written on hemp. Hemp was a far superior paper. It's really difficult to tear. It's a crazy fight.
It was a moment. That was a moment. I don't know what that was.
Well, I was over here blabbing about the illegalization of weed and how crazy it is, and we were talking about ayahuasca and all those things, and all of a sudden you just got a little pale.
Yeah, I got a little pale and started sweating. I don't know what it is. I just got a little sick. I feel a little better now. I have a nice yak.
This is how long has this sickness been with you?
I felt fine all day. I felt fine yesterday. I played golf. I had,
It's great. So has this happened before, though? It just comes on out of nowhere?
No, this should be the first time.
So maybe it's maybe it's another thing, like a food poisoning thing or something?
Fuck, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
You've had a couple IVs, right?
I had 2 last week, and I'll go home and get another one. I'm sure I'll be fine in just a little bit.
Damn.
Sure I'll be cool.
Damn. And you played golf?
Yeah, played golf with my son. Had a great time.
It's a nice day to play golf, too.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we have out here in Texas is real weather. I love it when it rains and everything's so green and pretty. And
you need to go down to Costa Rica.
I do need to go down to Costa Rica.
Stay in your neighbor's place. It's the sweetest thing that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
My big pet peeve is when people say it's the best thing you've ever seen. It's the best thing you've ever seen, buddy. I've seen some shit, you know. I've seen some shit.
Exactly. Like, what are you saying? I've seen so many things.
But that place down there that it's another driftwood, or like kind of like driftwood. But
yeah,
it is fucking gorgeous.
I've heard that driftwood place is amazing. Place out here,
it's the best, man. It's so pretty right now because all they blow in a bunch of wildflowers all over it, and it's just fucking gorgeous. It's a great golf course.
I almost wish I played golf.
It's a waste of time and money. You don't have, you know. I know you don't have time, so.
I would love it. I'm sure, but so we should probably wrap this up because you're not feeling that good, right?
I feel a little better.
You all right?
Yeah,
I'm keep rolling a little.
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's just when someone gets sick like that, you don't know what to do. Like,
fuck yeah, I don't know what to do, but I swear I feel better. I don't feel hot anymore.
It's so weird. So weird. What is that?
As soon as you get something out of my stomach real quick, I think. Weirdest way to do it.
It's just crazy that something's been like, you have a little invader in your body.
Yeah.
And you're fighting off. That's what we're doing all the time, fighting off these invaders.
Yeah, I'm still coming to the club tonight. I'm gonna get a drip and come do a set.
Of course. This would be fun tonight. It's Cam Patterson's show tonight.
Oh, good. Good.
It's an exciting time. It really is. And the world is so chaotic right now, which is great for comedy. Whenever the world's fucked up, the comedy's at its best. Gaza, Palestine, and it's fucking Ukraine and the tariffs. It's great to come out and do some comedy.
Yeah. You know what I stay away from all of it.
Good.
And of that subject matter, or any politics or anything like that. And the reason is, I know my crowd. I know what they want, and they want to laugh really hard, and they want to. And I think that I've always taken the position as I'm just not going to bring that into it. I'm going to let us do something. I love it. People try to take on 9/11 right after 9/11, but I only saw like one person that was really, if you're good enough to write about that, then write about it. But if you're not good enough to write about it, leave it the fuck alone.
Leave it the fuck alone. That's some black belt material.
Like on 9/11 right after 9/11, but I only saw like one person that was really, if you're good enough to write about that, then write about it. But if you're not good enough to write about it, leave it the fuck alone.
Leave it the fuck alone. That's some black belt material.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be
skill level, whatever.
Yeah. Mitzi Shore wouldn't let Brian Holtzman on stage for 2 weeks after 9/11.
No, I didn't know that.
She's like, no way. Keep him off the stage. The Holtzman couldn't wait to say something fucking completely outrageous. Whatever that demon inside of him that comes out when he's on stage.
Yeah, I don't understand him. I really don't.
Because
I love him to death, but he's such an
guy.
Original character. And
the most.
Yeah.
He's from a different time. It's like he was brought here from another dimension. He's like a different thing. Even the way he dresses. It's like he's from the 50s.
Right.
And he's like my age. Like he's not. He was like that when I met him. He was from a different era when I met him in '94. I was like,
you've known him that long?
Yeah, I'm like, where is this fucking guy from? Like, you're from a different time.
People fucking love him, though, man. He's
got a crowd now.
Yeah, he does.
And that's the difference between the way he was treated at the store. Unfortunately, he fell into this through nobody's fault. But it was like everybody waited till the end and Holtzman would go up. But, like, why have him on the end? It's like, have him on when the crowd's hot.
Right.
Like, don't put him on at 1 in the morning. Put him on at 10. Let's see when the crowd is like pop. Like let him cook when the crowd's popping. And now he sells out. People come to see him.
Right.
In the headlines, it's like people get excited. He's a maniac, and he's got a crowd now. He's got like a legitimate draw.
They get it.
Yeah, they get it.
Yeah,
it's nice. It's fun, and that's also the difference between when a comedy club is run by a comic. Because Holtzman has always been a comic for comics. We all would go to see Holtzman at the end of the night when he was doing these insane sets for 15 people in the main room.
Right.
But now, like, we're running the show, so, like, give him a fucking weekend. Let's go. Give him a Thursday night. Let's go. Let's have some fun.
Right.
Especially the 10 p.m. shows.
Right. He does a lot of Thursdays.
Yeah, especially 10 p.m. shows. That's the best time to see him. When it's late, you've had a couple of cocktails.
Right.
You're feeling a little crazy about the world.
Yeah.
Let that guy loose.
You understand it's a joke.
Yeah, you get jokes. You get someone saying something that he doesn't really mean.
Right.
It's completely ridiculous to say. Yeah, that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he acts like he means it, and you buy into it. No, it's a joke still. Yeah.
But every now and then he'll show you behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Every now and then he'll give you a little peek, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is amazing. He's having fun.
He is. He's having a good time. And he loves Austin, too. I see him walking around downtown almost every time I drive through the city. He's just...
Yeah, it was a big getting him here. It was a big get because we wanted to bring a lot of there was some magic that was trapped in the talent of the Comedy Store. It was magic. And some of it wasn't being utilized correctly. Holtzman's the best example of that.
But what a fun hang it was,
What a fun hang.
Yeah, it was great.
That's some of my favorite times in my life in that back bar.
Yeah.
Just laughing. We'd be back there just laugh. That was a great thing the Comedy Store did when they put together that bar.
Yeah.
That it had Mitzi's actual bar from her house was the bar there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that bar didn't used to be there. Like, so the early days, that was like a storage room. And so at one point in time, the store was like really killing it. They decided like we should turn this into a bar. And I don't know what year was that. I feel like that was like 2014-ish, which is right when I came back. And the store was killing it. And we all were like, oh yeah, we'll have our own bar. This is incredible. And you had to go through the kitchen to get to it, like a scene from Goodfellas.
Right.
And you get back there, and you could only be back there if you were cool. Like you couldn't buy a ticket.
It was policed too.
Yeah, you had to have a friend. You had to know somebody to get back there. But we would be hanging with some of the coolest people in the world.
That was my favorite place to drink.
It was so fun. There'd be musicians back there.
Smoke pot back there.
And everybody was just chilling. The drinks for free. It was crazy. It was so fun. The store was a magical place, man. A magical place. And there's something about the fact that, it had this insane history to it that you felt like, wow, I can't believe I'm even here.
Right, standing on the same stages of Pryor and
Kinnison.
Right.
And you're in the belly of the beast on Sunset in Hollywood, like right in the middle of everything.
Right.
The middle of everything. Where everybody, I remember when I was a kid in 1988 when I first started doing stand-up, they would talk about the Comedy Store like it was Mecca.
Right.
Like you had to make your pilgrimage to the store. And some guys would say they went there with the bombed. Oh, I went back to try to do some meetings. Did I sit at the store? I bombed. I fucked that place. Like,
yeah, my first trip out to LA, I was trying to get on at the Improv. I couldn't get on, and I was like, oh man, I went to the Comedy Store, and I told them my story. It was Monday night, and they put me up first, which wasn't a really good spot, and I ate it, and but they did put me on stage. Yeah, there it is, right there. There were about 10 people in there or whatever, nobody, and it was a horrible experience. But I always look back at it fondly, because they did it.
Yeah,
they said, yeah, go get on stage.
First time I ever came out to the store, I was out in LA to do some pilot thing for MTV, and I was staying at a hotel, and I knew where the store was. I was like, I gotta get there. I just gotta see what it's like. And they let me in because I said, hey, I'm a comedian from New York. Can I just come in and watch the show? And they're like, yeah, sure. They just let me right in. And then I sat in the back of the room. There was like 19 people in there, and they were all like, the comics that were on stage were terrible. They were all like boat acts. They're like people that. And then I realized years later that what had happened was, a lot of these scenes, they go in these peaks and valleys. And I caught it when it was at a valley. And before it was at a peak, like the Kinnison years, it was a giant peak. When people would come to, it was the wild place. Kinnison was there. They all come at midnight and watch him, and celebrities would be all there. And he had died in like 92, I think. And I got there in 94. So there was this absence.
Lull, right.
There was a real lull. There was a lot of like leftovers, people that were in the 80s that didn't make it,
right?
But they were still around. They're still doing stand-up and hoping that something was going to happen. But they had tired acts. They were just tired. It hadn't happened for them. They were out there doing pilot season. They didn't want to be at the store, because if you're at the store, there's no agents. There's no executive. No one comes to see you at the store at that time. They would go to the Improv. They would go to the Laugh Factory. That's where the industry was. So if you really wanted to have an actual career, you wouldn't be doing sets at the store.
Instead, had to do sets in front of Bud Friedman going, language! Watch your language!
How's it going?
Yeah, there's a lot of that back then, right? The TV days. Everybody thought you had to be clean.
When I came back to the store, it was in its heyday,
Just driving around, trying to make some money.
Podcast, and the fucking place was packed to the rafters, and the comics were solid as fuck,
We had a magical run.
Yeah,
it was a magical run,
and we're having one now.
Yeah.
So
it's the same thing. I mean, it's basic, but it's our version of it, the new version of it. But it's the same thing. It's just like, it's a beautiful thing when. That term artist is very pretentious. So I'll just say comics. Realize that we're all doing this thing together, and there's not a lot of us, and it's fun to hang out together and enjoy each other's company and appreciate each other and appreciate the ride. We're all on this wild ride together.
That's right. And it is quite a ride.
It's a beautiful ride.
Quite a ride.
Yeah, we're very lucky, Ron White, and I say it all the time, but it's true. Patient up. Imagine if you have some fucking new COVID, picked up some new COVID in Vegas that kills us all.
Yeah.
I love you to death, brother.
I love you too,
man.
Thank
you for being here.
Hey, you got. Thanks for having me on.
Goodbye.
See you guys.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
All right, we're up. Good to see you guys. What's happening? Are you going no headphones?
Oh,
keep the dew.
I'm not quite sure where they at.
There we go. All right. The goal of this is every time I see people that disagree with anything that's happening, any gigantic world events, it's one of these retarded shows where they're screaming. What's the word again? Got it. We were just talking about that.
Did it,
the word retarded is back, and it's one of the great culture victories that I think is spurred on probably by podcasts. But these things are always like Pierce Morgan-y, which is fine, where everyone's screaming over each other, and there's 5 different people talking over each other. There's never just rational conversations where you discuss things. And I respect both of you. I think both of you are brilliant. And I bet you agree on a lot of things. I bet you disagree on a lot of things. It'd be fascinating to see your perspectives on these things. So that's why we're here together.
Okay. Can I ask you something?
Yes, sir.
Since the war in Israel began, and since the war in Ukraine began, you've had quite a lot of people who are very against both in different ways.
Yes.
Do you think you've had enough people on who are supported by the war?
I don't know that word enough, if that's a good word.
Let's say enough people who are on the side of Israel instead of wild critics.
Well, I've had a few. I mean, I believe God
Baker, Coleman Hughes.
Yeah,
Coleman did it for like 20 minutes, so it wasn't why he was here.
No, I mean none of them, and none of them is why they're here. You know, it's a good question.
Do you think you've tilted one way?
Me personally?
No, just with the guests you've had.
The guests? Yeah, probably more tilted towards the idea that perhaps the way they put it is barbaric.
But why do you think that is? Just out of interest. Just because it's sort of interested in your selection of guests because you're like the world's number one podcast.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think about it that way. I just think I'd like to talk to this person.
But can I just?
Yeah,
it's your show. But
sure.
If you're going to interview historians of the conflict or historians in general, why would you get somebody like Ian Carroll?
Yeah, but Ian Carroll, I didn't bring him on for that purpose. I brought him on because I want to find out, like, how does one get involved in the whole conspiracy theory business? Because his whole thing is just conspiracies, you know?
But do you have any, I mean, there's been a tilt in the conversation, both conversations in the last couple of years, and it's largely to do with people who have appointed themselves experts who are not experts.
You mean like Ian? I don't think he appoints himself an expert in anything.
Who's that other dude who thinks he's an expert in church?
Daryl Cooper does not think he's an expert.
In fact, I think it's everybody else is always calling him an expert, and he's like, I'm just a history.
Have you ever absorbed any of his material? Have you ever consumed any of his podcasts or anything like that?
I've tried.
Yeah?
It's pretty hard to listen to somebody who says, I don't know what I'm talking about, but now I'm going to talk. Or I don't know about this, or I'm not capable of debating this historian, but I'm going to just tell you what I think.
Yeah, but that's not exactly what
context.
Daryl was saying. I mean, Daryl's point of view, however you feel about this, what Daryl's saying is he doesn't really like doing debates. He likes to do long format stuff where he can really explain his position.
If you throw a lot of shit out there, there's some point at which I'm just raising questions is not a valid thing. You're not raising questions. You're not asking questions. You're telling people something.
You think Daryl's doing that?
I think there's a whole bunch of guys doing it. I think Dave is doing that, very obviously. Dave's a comedian, but he's now mainly talking about Israel.
No, I don't know if I'm mainly talking about Israel.
That's all I see you on the internet doing.
Yeah, but that's you.
That might be what you've seen.
It's just
I don't
you
think
consuming clips.
But that is also your shtick now, isn't it?
Well, what do you mean by that's my shtick?
Well, you're not a geopolitics guy in general, are you?
I don't even know exactly what you're asking.
I'm saying you've decided, being a comedian, you've decided now to become somebody who talks about Israel.
I think you're incorrect. I don't think it's a decision. I just think you have long-form conversations, multiple of them. It's a huge event that's in the news, so it comes up. I don't think it's a thing. I think if you're on the outside, you'd say, oh, look.
If you do alternative views on this, and particularly when it's a counter-narrative that is wildly off, and when you get people, look, I just feel, we should get it out straight away, I feel you've opened the door to quite a lot of people who've now got a big platform, who have been throwing out counter-historical stuff of a very dangerous kind.
You mean Daryl? Are you talking about Daryl?
Daryl, who's the other one?
I don't think Daryl has.
Derek.
I don't think there's anything dangerous about
what's the other guy?
Derek.
Derek. Was that Cooper? Which one is it?
No,
it's Daryl
Cooper. Who's the other one? The one I just checked on the way here. Daryl Cooper, and then Daryl Cooper, Ian Carroll. look, these guys are not historians. They're not knowledgeable.
Well, no one's calling Ian Carroll.
No, but then why listen to their views on Churchill?
Daryl is incredibly knowledgeable.
He's not.
Yeah,
he's
he
not.
is.
He's
Why do you say
wildly. Several reasons. One is when he was offered to debate the current greatest living biographer of Churchill, he said, "I can't," because he knows much more than me, and I admire his work and I've learned from it, but I can't possibly debate him. That's Andrew Roberts.
But you don't have to be able to debate people to have opinions.
No,
on
you don't
things.
have to debate people.
If it's not your thing.
But if you, for instance, but if you say, I've decided that Churchill is the bad guy in
Somebody
World War
said.
II.
Somebody said. Somebody said.
Neither Carroll nor Cooper have said that.
Well, listen, I don't know what Carroll said, but Daryl Cooper's not said that. What he said was he jokes with his friend Jocko, who's an Anglo-Saxon. He jokes with him. You know, I think that Churchill was the secret villain of World War II. And what he's saying is by Churchill's actions the war escalated. He's not saying anything.
He's not just asking questions, then, is he?
No, but
he's got to what they're doing. What they're doing. And the problem is that because your own platform has come about because you're a very successful comedian and much more, and you do ask questions, and you are interested. But there are a lot of people who have come along, partly I think because they've come on this show, who have come along and they've decided, I can play this double game. On the one hand, I'm going to push really edgy and frankly sometimes horrific opinions. And then if you say that's wrong, they say, I'm a comedian.
But wait a minute.
How can you tell me I'm just a comedian?
Well,
I'm just throwing stuff out.
What horrific opinions that's wrong are you talking about specifically?
Once guys like this get into very obvious stuff, which is
guys like Daryl,
the ones I'm describing.
You
very
need to
clear.
listen to Daryl to really understand what he's saying. If you take Daryl's words out of context, Daryl has some of the most nuanced, balanced, and charitable views on all. Wrong. You're wrong.
That he wasn't anti-Semitic until the Holocaust. There were no speeches of Hitler's in the 1930s.
This is no.
What is he doing? He wrote a book about it in the 1920s. He got to power on it, and he grew his power on the back of it. The idea that you can argue that in the 1930s, Adolf Hitler was down like he was keeping it down in the 1930s. First of all, what are you doing? And secondly, why?
I don't think you're giving him the most charitable interpretation.
I don't need to give him the most charitable interpretation to be able to see what he's doing.
Okay, I think you're strong-manning him, I should say.
Look, anyone can look up what he's said on this show and others, what these two guys in particular have said on repeated, because we live in an era now that the right has got some mojo back in America. We saw years of crazy left overreach where they tried to make us, and they are mainstreaming.
I don't think
and I think
Daryl's
it's partly being mainstreamed by the two people I just described, and both of you have kept speaking to these people, and you don't get on the historians who know about this, and that's just alarming to me.
Well, can I just say, because I kind of do agree. I'm sorry, because maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. You're saying people that I've had conversations with have downplayed the Holocaust. Well, who are the two guys?
Daryl Cooper and the other
Ian Carroll. I've never podcasted with Ian Carroll. I have podcasted with Daryl Cooper once, and we're zooming out here a little bit. Maybe this is kind of part of the disconnect. Broadly speaking, in American culture, the idea that it has not been driven into people enough that the Nazis were bad and that Adolf Hitler he is literally the modern devil. He is much more so than the actual devil. Adolf Hitler is what's viewed as the most evil thing, to the point that, I mean, just my entire life growing up, if there was a guy who sold soup on Seinfeld who was like authoritarian, he's a soup Nazi. Right. Everyone was Hitler. The left called George Bush Hitler, and they called Obama Hitler, and they called Trump Hitler. Yes. Every single enemy that we've gone to war with always called Hitler. Saddam Hussein's the new Hitler. Muammar Gaddafi's the new Hitler. Putin's the new Hitler. It is so the idea that we haven't driven into people enough Adolf Hitler was a really bad guy.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying, just as the left likes to play with variants throughout his era in power, they played down Stalin. They still march on occasions with posters of Lenin. They've spent decades trying to do down. Each moment is despite, or maybe because of what you just described, there are movements now on the right in America, subcultures, including people who follow them. Why do you think?
I have no idea. I think
I'm telling
a lot of people get captured by audience capture.
Captured by their audience.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. You get
There's something about Michael Malice had that great line. He goes, when you take the red pill, you're supposed to take one and not swallow the whole bottle. Yes. And I think there's like this dynamic. What happens is, and then of course people know the red pill is the analogy from the Matrix. The idea that you wake up to realizing that so much of the stuff you believed at that and go, well then maybe
what's happening there. That's an exercise of power.
Okay.
And I agree with you about the breakdown of trust. Absolutely. We have lived through an era where, in real time, we saw something called a conspiracy, the lab leak, which turns out to be true, as you and others said it might be from the beginning.
I find that to be very racist.
And against Joe?
How dare you against both of you?
It used to be racist when we were saying that it was likely that the COVID seemed like it was possible to us.
By the way,
ask yourself this: who has access to your medical history? In theory, it's tabs on every symptom you Google, every treatment you research, and every pre-existing condition they think you might have. That's valuable intel for advertisers and insurance companies who'll take any excuse to raise your premiums. But there's a way to get your privacy back, and that is with ExpressVPN. With ExpressVPN, 100% of your online activity is rerouted through secure on all your devices, phones, tablets, desktops, even TVs, and on up to 8 devices at the same time. This is why ExpressVPN is the #1 rated VPN by the experts at CNET and The Verge. And the best part, podcast listeners can get 4 extra months of ExpressVPN for free at expressvpn.com/Rogan or by tapping the banner. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can get your 4 free months by scanning the QR code on screen or by clicking the link in the description.
It's racist to think that there was a sophisticated lab where they were developing like gain-of-function research, and they go, no, what happened is these freaks were eating bat heads.
That's right.
Like, wait, that's not racist?
Pretty
the
racist.
Other one was racist?
Eating pangolins.
But that one fell apart in front of our eyes.
Well, it took 4 years.
It took 4 years. And I've said repeatedly, it's kind of inevitable to me that if you see something that is called a racist conspiracy theory fall apart and
meetings, because the support
Cooper is currently, I believe, almost finished, or he's working on a big World War II series. And when this comes out,
what's it going to be on?
We can see
podcast.
Yeah, he does long form podcasts. When this comes out, I am quite confident to say beforehand that if you're going into it expecting him to be downplaying the atrocities of the Nazis or downplaying the evil things that Adolf Hitler did, you're going to be disappointed.
My point is, why are we even talking about this guy?
Because you brought him up.
Yes, because he comes on podcasts like this. My point is, this is not a serious historian. He's not a historian.
He never claims to be. He's been doing these long form podcasts on these subjects for over a decade. And if you go back to 2015 and it's how many hours long?
30 something.
And it literally starts from the persecution of the Jews, where they're being driven out of Europe. It's like this horrific account of what happens to these people. It's what he's trying to do is neighbors are turning on them and they're being attacked. Like it's incredibly charitable. But what he's trying to do is show it's incredibly charitable. But what he's trying to do is show what happens to human beings when they're confronted with unbelievable atrocities and how things go so incredibly sideways.
Lots of people have written and spoken about that.
So why is he
not stand up against somebody who disagrees with him?
Oh, okay, I don't exactly get your point. Like, there was lots of pushback. If you're saying he should go and debate somebody who's giving him pushback on that, okay, maybe. I also think it's reasonable for him to say, I don't really do debates.
Yeah, I think it's weird to mainstream very...
I shouldn't have that.
Fringe will be what eager, very... and if These people are such experts in how you see a society go weird. They can look at what is happening to a portion of the right everywhere on this stuff. There's a portion of the right across the West that is playing this very dark game, and they're doing it deliberately, and you can't not be aware of that.
I agree with that. I don't think Daryl Cooper is doing that, but I do agree with your characterization.
No, but
I think it's a pretty important distinction there.
You're just taking this one statement, and then this where he's trying to joke around with his buddy, this Churchill statement, and this is the basis.
He
of
and
this.
these other guys are all doing the anti-Churchill stuff now.
But he's not doing an anti-Churchill stuff.
He and the other people in the orbit.
Churchill was the author of this whole Operation Unthinkable, right? Where they wanted to use the Nazis to invade Russia. Wasn't that Churchill? Is that not true?
We're going to have to get into the weeds on Churchill. There is always going to be a corner which you can get me on a bit of Churchill.
But that's the point.
You'd have to say which bit you're talking about.
A comprehensive view.
Yeah, Churchill was never working with the Germans to invade Russia.
No. This was a plan that was drawn up. Do you know about Operation Unthinkable? Pull it up, Jimmy. Operation Unthinkable was at the end of the war. I believe Churchill was concerned about the rise of Russia in the rise of the Soviet Union, and the idea was, and we'll find out what the historical facts are about this. Operation Unthinkable, the name given to two related possible future war plans developed by the British Chiefs of Staff Committee against the Soviet Union during 1945. The plans were never implemented. The creation of the plans was ordered by the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill on May 1945 and developed by the British Armed Forces Joint Planning Staff in May 1945, the end of World War II in Europe. One plan assumed a surprise attack of Army staff on 9 June 1945 concluded it would be beyond our power to win a quick but limited success, and we would be committed to a protracted war against heavy odds. The code was... Yeah.
This is... okay. First of all, I never do Wikipedia.
Okay, we don't have to do Wikipedia.
No, it's okay. Evidence, it's obvious.
True.
It's what Churchill had worried about. This man manages to do one of the most heroic things in human history in standing alone against evil in its most concentrate form. And he does about as much as any human being can do to save the civilized world. If you just park that and you go on to a plan in 1945 to try to counter Soviet domination of Europe, you see what I'm saying? This is not...
I'm not at all the expert on...
something in the round.
Yeah, it's also, look, I mean, I'm not even, I'm not at all the expert on World War II. And I'm not, going to debate with you about World War II. But I would say that, there's a lot of room for nuance and disagreement with what you just said. You know, in the 20th century, we had 2 world wars. They're the worst thing, objectively speaking, the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of the world. And the Second World War is the biggest bloodbath in history, and it ended with handing the man who you just mentioned, Joseph Stalin, half of Europe. So, listen, if you want to argue, I'm Jewish and of German descent, so I'm not against
it. Never happened. And the worst thing imaginable, worst possible outcome, you said.
Just about.
You said worst possible outcome. Let me give you a much worse possible outcome. Hitler wins.
Right, okay, sure.
So it's not the worst possible outcome.
I mean,
that's true.
Listen, but okay, Hitler, yes, okay, I'm not saying you can't dream up a worse outcome. I'm saying what you
It's not dreaming up. That's just what my country Earth and others went through.
What did end up happening was 60 million people died, including the Holocaust, and then Joseph Stalin takes half of Europe. So, okay, fine. I'll correct that. There is a worse outcome.
Right.
But that's not a great one.
No, nobody said it was. This is there's a very weird argument that you now hear about. This know why it's happening.
I don't think there's anything I'm saying that's revisionist.
I think there is. But this attempt to sort of say, look, at the end of World War II, what have we got? Stalin has half of Europe. What was the point? And so on. That's going on. That's going on. And there are people who are feeding it. That argument is very similar. This particular school of, as it were, history is doing something that I've seen happen with American history as well. particularly with Lincoln. Lincoln's an interesting comparison to make with Churchill on this. There are people who will criticize Churchill for mistakes made. Not hard to do. Quite hard not to make mistakes while fighting in a war of total annihilation against your country. People will say, oh, he didn't sort this out in 1945. You know, it's rather like Lincoln. He didn't solve every problem in the world for all time, but he solved a hell of a big problem. And that requires some back, and he'd have been great at Yalta, and this is...
But I don't think anybody's saying that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there is a tendency of like woke left kids to do this, but I don't think that's what certainly not what I'm saying, and I don't think what Daryl's saying. I do also think that one of the bigger, kind of the bigger picture dynamics to all of this is that we have, at least since 9/11, been in a state of perpetual war. And all of these wars have been disasters. They have been so many lies involved in selling all of them. I mean, the whole Iraq war, the whole war in Afghanistan, just lying the whole way through. I mean, I remember literally having conversations with Green Berets in the middle of the war in Afghanistan, and they're like, George W. Bush is telling you that the army we're building up there is really successful. This thing's going to fall in a week without us. And then all through the Obama administration, it's just like lie after lie after lie with disastrous wars. And so this does create a fertile ground for people to say, I wonder if they were lying about all these wars.
Sure.
Again, I'm not really trying to argue about World War II. I'd rather argue about these wars today.
I think the interesting question is whether you're busy hoovering it.
Well, should you not talk about mistakes that were made overall?
Absolutely.
Okay, you should.
Absolutely.
Right.
I'm all for going back and looking at mistakes.
So what is your argument then?
It's a very weird thing to go back, zone in on a man, say this one thing is a mistake and should characterize him, and you ignore everything.
You're taking him out of context when you're talking about Daryl, who's done, what was it, 30 plus hours?
So what? 30 plus hours of
but
podcasting. You do that in a week.
UFC 314 is headed to South Beach, and it won't be all glitz and glamour, but the stars will be out. Don't miss any of the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the UFC. It promises to be another banger of events, especially in the featherweight main event between two evenly matched fighters, Alexander Volkanovski and Diego Lopez. It should be wild. First time, just pick something simple, like a fighter to win, and make your pick. It's that simple. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Step into the octagon with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code ROGAN. That's code ROGAN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
A podcast like talking to people.
Okay, nor is he doing scholarly work, nor is he working in the archives. Come on. I mean, he is not the historian of our era.
He's not claiming to be.
This is the thing, Joe. This is like punching jelly.
No, but you don't consume his work.
Well, I'm saying because I don't need to consume endless versions of a revisionist history. I understand.
Revisionist history. If you listen to his work, it's not revisionist history. He's basing it on historical.
But I know. But okay, so this is my point about jelly. It's a shape-shifting thing. Comedian or historian?
He's not a comedian.
Historian or podcast? Would-be historian or actual historian? You say he doesn't claim to be a historian, but he's pumping out tens of hours of history.
Does Dan Carlin. He doesnn't claim to be a historian either.
You see my point about the move? It's like some weird jiu-jitsu move.
No, I don't.
Where you say, hang on, you know all about this as well. You say, I'm not a historian, but I'm going to spend my time talking about history. I'm not a journalist, but I'm going to spend my time talking about this thing. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm going to spend my time talking about this thing. It's a weird move, yeah?
No.
You don't think?
No, I'm a free American. I can talk about what I like to. So what is the point
I've noticed
here?
you can. But
so
we
what's
all
the
can.
point?
The point is, what are you pushing? What are you watering?
What
Why?
am I pushing?
Yes.
Liberty, free markets, peace, prosperity, not getting in another stupid catastrophic war, which we're on the precipice of right now. That's what I'm pushing.
What are we on the precipice of?
Well, I think weren't you just talking about it the other day? Everyone I hear on the inside says we're about to attack Iran. I think you just said something about that the other day. Am I wrong about that? I thought I saw in one of your interviews that you did. No.
Okay. That doesn't mean we are on the verge of a war. I mean, you keep referring to we being in wars. There's a very big difference between a country having a military that's engaged and a country being at war. This country has not been at war for 25 years. You have not been fighting for the American homeland for 25 years.
Yes, we haven't. That's true.
Right.
We haven't had a war
Right.
on our shores. We've been picking on third world countries halfway around the world.
Well, you haven't been randomly picking on them. I mean, Afghanistan, you went...
I didn't say it was random.
Yeah, right, okay. It wasn't like you suddenly decided to bomb, again, Myanmar or something. We went for Afghanistan to find bin Laden and take revenge for 9/11 and stop an attack like that happening again on the American homeland. That is very different from a country being at war.
Yeah, but that's a total mischaracterization of the war in Afghanistan. It's one thing to say that might be an accurate characterization of the special operations mission in late 2001, but then we fought a 20-year regime change war against the Taliban.
Because you got dragged into the quicksand of war.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, fine, but
Fine.
I thought it wasn't a war. Like, what? I don't get your
No, I
argument.
said it was a war. It's your use of we, as if you're personally like suffering this war. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
yes,
a taxpayer.
when I say we,
we're taxpayers,
implied,
so we
okay.
pay for it. Okay, fine.
Douglas, would
But,
you
I
go,
mean,
if I went back and corrected you on every time you've used the term we? Or something like that. Like if I were to say, "Oh, we just
It's fine,
imposed
just
tariffs on China," would you point out that I didn't, and it was the Trump administration?
I'm saying you take it obviously very personally, and that's your right to do so, of course. I'm just trying to make sure we're accurate here.
What do you think I'm taking personally?
Just that, the American wars.
Sure, yeah, I think they've killed hundreds of thousands of people and cost my country $8 trillion and degraded my country very much.
And there's a very good argument to make on that. I'm still slightly bemused about this move from I'm an expert on this and I have views to I'm a comedian.
I've never claimed to be an expert on anything.
This is the problem, Joe. I mean, if somebody
Wait a minute,
says
you have to claim to be an expert on something to have an opinion on something?
you don't have to be. You don't have to be. But
So
this
what's
is
the
like
issue?
I'm not a historian, but I'm pumping out history.
But wait a minute,
I'm
what
not
about
an expert,
just
but I'm talking all the time about this
I'm not
thing.
even talking about specifically on what he just said.
Fucker. No, I'm saying this is my point about this. You say I'm not an expert.
So what's the solution? To not talk about it?
No, it's to have more experts around.
No, the expert
To
class
hear-
hasn't done a great job.
I know.
Man. This is follow the science.
Absolutely,
Yeah, but you know what?
absolutely, I
Okay,
agree
so fine.
with
So
that.
during,
I just said to you, I agree with that.
Right, I know.
But
so
one of the
Douglas,
problems
during
is-
all of
Fire away.
COVID, I will put my track record against any of the expert class on COVID. I'm glad to do that. So should I have just shut up? Should I have shut up by opposing lockdowns and opposing vaccine mandates and
Well,
talking
that
about
was
the
the
lab leak
argument at the
theory?
time. You realize
that's
that,
the
right?
entire argument that you're making. Let the experts handle this.
No.
You're not an expert. You're right. I was just a
You're
comedian.
wildly not listening to what I'm saying. I think you have to take. I think we should agree, perhaps, on the following: that one major thing can break down in front of your eyes, or many major things, and it does not mean that every single one of the sewer gates should be lifted. Okay?
Yeah, I get that.
But
Right.
who's saying it should be?
Saying this is a chatter on what is part of our side at the moment, is that a lot of the sewer gates are being lifted, sometimes by people who know that they're doing it, sometimes by people who don't, sometimes by people who say, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. But at the very least, there's some damn hygiene that should be required, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but sure.
Just that. Let's have a bit of hygiene on our own side, not lift every sewer gate.
And when you say
not
our own side,
lift-
you mean the right wing broadly speaking?
Broadly speaking, and I'm sort of funny about libertarians. I'm never quite sure. I always say I think libertarians are essentially the bisexuals of politics. They should just choose, Joe. They should choose. It's kind of, they just want everything at the buffet.
That's very funny.
Well, I think we want some things. I don't know. Okay, that's a weird way to put it, but I get
I see
your
your
point. All right. Well, I mean, I don't know. Look, I mean, essentially, I just don't. Maybe there's something I'm missing here. But if your argument is that, like, you're saying I claim to be an expert, but then I have like a parachute to get out of it by being like, hey, I'm just a comedian who's just saying this. Yeah. But I don't think I've ever like really claimed to be an expert. I have opinions on things.
I know, but
because I'm interested in these topics.
Yeah, I know, but isn't it weird to go around? For instance, let's get to the last year and a half. It's a bit weird to be simultaneously saying I'm not an expert on a conflict and talking about it everywhere.
I don't think so. Not really. I mean, I don't know. I don't think like I don't see how you.
Do you talk about these things?
Which things?
All these things that we're talking about.
Some of them, yeah.
Are you an expert?
I am on some, yes.
On some,
but you talk about some that you're not an expert on.
You'll notice.
Right, so what should you do? What should you do?
Has an equally valid point of view. No,
I certainly wouldn't argue. I mean, that to me is just batting down a straw man. I mean, I certainly wouldn't argue that everyone has an equally valid point of view, and I certainly wouldn't argue that there shouldn't be some standards of like who you would want to find interesting and talk to and who you wouldn't. But also, it's like, so let's have the conversation that like I don't know, like if there's if there are experts out there who can smack all of this stuff down or just destroy every point that I make over the years or whatever, like, okay, so then do it. And then let's see.
Yeah, I know, but, well, that's a bit weird because also then it's like the debate me bro thing. But
you just criticized Daryl for not debating.
It's fine. Yeah, I know. Let me just make the main point. I think what I'm trying to get at, Joe, is that it's a bit like the Twitter algorithm thing, which is, yes, everyone is and should be free to say what they like on Twitter, apart from whatever the very fringe podcast level, and maybe on a wider level. It is for the people who know the documents to go to, though, as I say, I think you've massively underrepresented the pro-Ukraine argument and the pro-Israel argument in the last 2 years. Again, something to do with the editorial about Zelensky or the Ukrainians in the conflict does very well. Anything that says actually the Ukrainian army is fighting to try to retain as much of their country. Pushing the idea that, for instance, the Americans caused it or something like that does well. I think everything that says actually in February 2022 Vladimir Putin's tanks invaded Ukraine and they shouldn't have done doesn't do as well.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone saying that what Vladimir Putin did wasn't horrific.
That's not my point. The point is that after that, there's a whole set of things. Let's look at, for instance, the issue of corruption.
Okay.
Ukraine is a pretty corrupt country by EU standards, by World Bank standards, and it's been a problem as it is in that neck of the woods. And it's understandable that if the US is one of the countries putting money and arms into Ukraine, then it's going to be a subject of legitimate interest to the American people and others, European taxpayers. Nevertheless, you end up in this, and I know this because it's the same thing in the old media. You end up on like the new bit of the story, and there's always a risk that you will lose sight of the case with the Israel-Hamas war as well.
Well, isn't there a little bit of a concern? Like, I would say a couple things here. Number one, I'm not denying, I don't know how the algorithm works or what it's pushing.
Like, why is there always someone in my fucking way blocking me?
Should all know more about. But I think there's a danger when you're to just classify everything as, well, the algorithm pushes this and doesn't push this. It's like, it could also be that some ideas are just resonating more and some ideas are more popular than other ideas. And there's probably both of those things are at work in that dynamic.
Sure.
But I also think that something like the reason why, say, talking about Ukrainian corruption is more interesting in a lot of ways than talking about Russian corruption is obviously because, like, well, one of these countries is an enemy and the other one is one that we're sending tens of billions of dollars to. And so, debating on between Zelensky and the weapons companies, I don't know. He says he only got $70 billion of it, but we've spent closer to 170, so whatever. But the point is that, obviously, if there is a country that we are propping up, funding, arming, and they're corrupt, I would say my starting point would always be to be more concerned with that corruption than an enemy country, which it's almost kind of a given is a corrupt country. Like, I don't know.
agree.
I'm sure there are fringes of the right who might say, like, Vladimir Putin's some great guy or something like that. But that is, I really do not think that is the argument that most people who are critical of Biden's policy are making.
Sure. I mean, I think one of the interesting things that happens in this is the old cliche of losing the wood for the trees. It just happens an awful lot, and it's the nature of the old news cycle, let alone the current one, the social media era. Actually, I remember that. So I don't go back to World War II. Let me just very quickly. I remember this debate with Pat Buchanan when he was debating in all of this sort of mad puzzle of views about iron ore production in the Bavarian forest and this sort of thing. And I remember that everyone was all over the place, and the moderator turned to the historian Andrew Roberts and said, "Andrew Roberts, why did World War II begin?" And he said, "World War II began because Hitler invaded Poland." And those moments come along quite often at the moment, which is, yes, there's an awful lot of very interesting things to look into. There's a lot of very interesting things going on which we should all be able to talk about and do talk about. But sometimes you have to remember the origin causes of things as well, and you have to stick to keeping that in mind.
Yeah, well, I
think that a lot of people are pretty bad at the moment of keeping that in mind. Like, you can concede Ukrainian corruption, you can concede all sorts of things, and still not lose sight of the thing of, if Russia rolls tanks into neighboring countries, it can't be allowed.
Oh, well, listen, okay, so on that, I think we have an area of agreement, and I do think, like, even while I much prefer the path that Donald Trump is pursuing to the path that Joe Biden pursued when it comes to the war in Ukraine, and of course this is, Donald Trump's thing, is once you piss him off, he's going to call you every bad nickname that there is. But when he said,
when you don't piss him off,
well, sure. But when he said,
the Danes come to mind.
I believe he said that Zelensky started the war,
yes,
or something like that, which is like, okay, all right, that's a little bit ridiculous.
He said Zelensky started the war and Zelensky was the dictator.
Yes. Okay. All right. So
Trump said that.
Yes, but it was after Zelensky pissed him off.
Zelensky started the war.
Yeah, but it was. This is how Donald Trump is. Love him or hate him, for better or for worse. Donald Trump, it's like if he feels that you disrespected him or came at him, he's going to be
in all of the melee, not to lose track of the basic facts.
Well, look, I will say this as somebody who is, I'm very anti-war, broadly speaking, and I do agree with you that it should, like, we should be able to have conversations about all the things that led up to the war and all the different, like, blunders that were made, and also still recognize that Vladimir Putin invaded a country and is responsible for, at least hundreds of thousands of people dying. And, my Scott Horton, who I always try to promote on here, he just wrote this book called Provoked. I think it's the best book that's been written on the history leading up to the war between, it basically takes you from the collapse of the Soviet Union up to the war in Ukraine. And even in that book, the book is called Provoked.
My own view has always been that, in part, we missed an opportunity to pay a kind of civilizational respect to the Russians, which they deserved. But also throughout the period that people now say there are all of these off-ramps, and now so many people claim that NATO went around the region desperately trying to provoke the Russians into some kind of war or into NATO before. I was in Georgia just after the 2008 war began, the country, not the state. Or it has to be confirmed, otherwise people are like, what? Who invaded Georgia?
That's Georgia.
They're no bastards. But I was in the country of Georgia, and Putin had tried to invade them, had seized South Ossetia and Abkhazia, and they were desperate to join NATO. In fact, they were desperate to join the European Union. I rather frivolously said to a Georgian friend, if you want, we can swap, you can take our British membership of the EU. But in the NATO thing, they were desperate for it. And they were desperate for it precisely for the reason that many of the Ukrainians were desperate for it, which was only way to stop Putin expansionism. So, in the whole fog of the post-Soviet era, that is one of the many things that gets left out of the conversation. And by the way, Putin's actions in February 2022 and since, all he's done is provoke 2 new countries to join NATO, and his borders with NATO have grown.
That's true.
Finland and Sweden wanted to join. And the only reason Finland and Sweden wanted to join was because they too are scared. It's a heck of a thing to get the Swedish to join a military alliance. It doesn't come easy to them. It doesn't come natural. And these countries joined because, like Georgia, like Ukraine, they desperately feared expansionism. And they weren't wrong.
Okay, but I get your point. First off, the war in Georgia in 2008 actually came, what was it, 2 or 3 months after the Bucharest summit, where NATO announced that Georgia and Ukraine would be entering NATO. So just making that point, that the NATO aspirations came first. But listen, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think anybody is ever implying that, like, we've expanded NATO through force and that the countries who were joining, or at least the governments of the countries who were joining, didn't want it. Although, in the case of Ukraine, there was a great piece in the Washington Post about this in 2006, where joining NATO was actually very unpopular, and there was a lot done, and largely because they just didn't want to take on the headache of the conflict that this might provoke. But, you know, the question, I think, isn't necessarily like, do these countries wish to join NATO? Of course, I think most countries in the world would like to join NATO. I think most countries in the world would like the most powerful government in the history of the world to guarantee their defense and subsidize their defense. The question is that in America's interest? And in terms of your point of seeing through the fog, I mean, look, there was, as you know well, in the 90s, in the late 90s, during the first round of NATO expansion, there was a lively debate amongst this. And I don't mean a debate amongst outsiders or experts or whatever. I mean, within the real deal experts, the wisest graybeards in the national security apparatus, there was a real debate with at least 3 secretaries of defense who warned against this. Robert Gates, Robert McNamara, William Perry, the Secretary of Defense at the time, almost resigned, said his biggest regret in life is that he didn't resign over it. George Kennan was able to see right through that fog. He literally said, the Cold Warrior, founder of the containment strategy, saw right through that fog and goes, this will inevitably lead to a conflict with Russia. And his exact words were, and then when there's a Russian response, everybody will say, look, this is why we needed to expand NATO. But the point here is, okay, even within that deep debate, which there were lively debates about, even the people who were on the pro-expansionist side of things, like Henry Kissinger, even he said Ukraine would have to be a special arrangement. Ukraine will not come into NATO because obviously that's leading to a war with Russia. And so I don't think it's unreasonable, and I think this is a fair thing that we should do in all conflicts, is like to have, as Mearsheimer puts it, to have strategic empathy, to say, like, hey, listen, let's reasonably place ourselves in the other person's shoes and say, how would we react if somebody was expanding their military alliance that is explicitly anti-us and is bringing it up to our borders and now is openly for years and years and years saying that we are going to bring your largest neighbor, where you have very important strategic interests from your point of view, into our military alliance, and you are saying over and over again, this is our back a street push that overthrows the government there. Don't you think maybe that would be a provocation?
First of all, 2 things. If you want that strategic empathy that Mearsheimer, I'm not an admirer of, but if you want to do that, you can do it the other way around as well, surely.
Yeah.
I mean, do the same thing with the Ukrainians. Do the
Absolutely,
same thing
yes.
with the Latvians and others.
Yeah, but I would never, Douglas, but my response to you was never, I can't understand why the Latvians or the Lithuanians would want to be in NATO. I understand,
right,
yes.
Right. And I can understand why Russia thought that Ukrainian membership of NATO was a red line. I can understand that. But that wasn't why Putin invaded in 2022. And I think there's an oddity, if I can say so. Maybe this particularly comes across on the libertarian bisexual side. But I think there's an oddity of the...
Let the record show him a happily married heterosexual man.
They all say that. Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan said when he was ambassador to the UN, he had this great rule, known among those who know about it as Moynihan's rule, which is, he said, if you sit at the UN Human Rights Council, or any of these bodies, you would come away with the belief that the most abused people with the fewest rights in the world live in America and other Western liberal societies. And he came, because we're the ones that talk about it. You know, if there's one incident of racism in America, the whole world knows about it. Everyone reads it. So there'll be protests everywhere. If there's one incident of racism in North Korea, it's not going to make any news. And then you have on top of that the fact that the way in which despotisms and death cults and dictatorships work, the information just doesn't come out. And Moynihan's rule ended up being that it's an interesting point. He said that his rule by the end of his time at the UN was that the number of human rights violations that occur in a country happen in exactly inverse proportion to the numbers of claims of human rights violations. Because only the countries which care about it and which such things can be aired in are ever going to get it out. But the point of Moynihan's law, and the warning of it, is be careful not to come away with the mistaken idea that the freest and most liberal societies are the worst. And I think there's a version of Moynihan's law that applies, whether it's to the Middle East, to Ukraine and Russia, which is we come away with this, people may come away with the impression that the bad things in the world effectively all come from here. And there is quite a lot to be said for some of that, but there's not everything to be said. And much of the world runs on a dynamic and a dynamo, which you can't do a darn thing about, other than to try to understand it.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, again, I certainly, there is truth to a lot of that, and I think that is a fascinating kind of dynamic where there is something about kind of like, you know, I noticed this even just with my own kids. Like, it's like, and people, when you have kids and you raise them really, you know, like you're really sweet to them and you don't hit them and you give them a good life, small things end up becoming huge, like things in their mind. Like, someone pushed me at the playground and it's like, whoa, this is, whereas like the way I grew up, that would have just been kind of like a non-event. But anyway, I think it would be certainly incorrect to assume that everything that happens bad in the world is somehow a consequence of U.S. meddling. I also think that there's people on the other side here, maybe the people who are more neocon leaning, more war hawky leaning, they have a tendency to only focus on the bad things that everybody else does and act like our policies have no impact on this.
Be ridiculous.
So, right. So very specifically, you know, with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, I'll just get two like bullet points on this, and we could talk about a lot of this. But look, number one, in 2008, as you well know, right, the Joe Biden's CIA director, who was the CIA director for the entire war up until Donald Trump just came back in, he wrote the Net Means Net memo to Condoleezza Rice, a private cable to the then Secretary of State when he was ambassador to Russia, to let her know that this flirting with bringing Ukraine into NATO is gonna end up in a war. And by the way, the Russians don't want to do it. His words exactly. If you keep pushing with this, the Russians are going to have to make a decision that they don't want to make, which is whether they intervene or not. And number two, Stoltenberg, I might be butchering that again, but the head of NATO, he himself said that Vladimir Putin sent him a draft treaty in late 2021 and said, look, if you just put into writing that you will not bring Ukraine into NATO, I won't invade. Now, if you want to argue that I admire your appeal to authority to the head of the CIA. It's not an appeal to authority.
Well,
how is that an appeal to authority?
You regard the view of the CIA director on that occasion as being useful for your argument. But secondly, secondly, there's an oddity to believing what Vladimir Putin said.
No, wait, hold on, but you didn't let me finish my point.
Okay.
So don't believe what he says. I'm not going to pretend to read his heart and mind or something like that, but at the very least, you handed him the giant excuse in order to do it. I mean, maybe he doesn't really believe it, but this is his argument to his own people and to the world, that it's like, look, and we put him in a position, if you hate Vladimir Putin, he's such a terrible guy, well, we put him in this position where he gets to now very plausibly say to the international community, in the same way that if the Soviet Union had survived and the United States hadn't, and they were...
He doesn't very plausibly have the opportunity to do that. He invaded Ukraine because he wanted to annex the whole country, because he was trying to pretend the whole place had been run by Nazis.
Well, I mean, okay, the whole place wasn't run by Nazis. There's certainly worse than Nazis there.
This is what he told the Russian people.
He also brought up, when he
can lie an awful lot when you're a dictator, and you have the ability not just to run all of the media, but to kill your political opponents. I mean, you can do an awful lot.
Sure.
none of this. I just got back from Ukraine again the other week, and it's so weird. I saw the Oval Office meeting as it happened from a trench in the front line between the Russian and Ukrainian positions in the east of the country. And it was so weird seeing the way in which this country's territory was being talked about by outsiders, and particularly by America, because there's so many oddities about it. But the people who are fighting there, the soldiers on the front lines, the ones I was with, they're not fighting against Putin forces because of NATO expansion or anything. They're fighting because he lied to his own army, he lied to his own people, he lies to the world, and he decided